Naruto, biochemistry scientist, invent various gene lock at first. Chapter 81. Just as Uchiha Itachi was spitting up large mouthfuls of blood, Uchiha Gen's attack did not cease. He used telekinesis to manipulate nerve-paralyzing toxins and sprayed them onto Uchiha Itachi. Instantly, Uchiha Itachi, who had already lost his ability to move due to his Susanoo being shattered, completely lost his ability to resist and fell unconscious. Without needing to worry about him using Izanagi, Uchiha General directly reached for Uchiha Itachi's eyes, intending to dig out his Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Itachi had never thought he would lose, nor had he imagined Uchiha Gen would dig out his eyes in front of all the clan members. Enough. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku could finally no longer bear to watch. He let out a cold shout and immediately blocked Uchiha Itachi, intending to save his son. First, a conclusion must be made. Uchiha Fugaku does not possess the Mangekyo Sharingan. The notion that Uchiha Fugaku had the Mangekyo Sharingan and could see the future is a plot hole from the anime. If Uchiha Fugaku had the Mangekyo Sharingan, as a qualified clan head, he would not have given up and waited for death when the Uchiha clan was in a desperate situation. Instead, he would have chosen to give his Mangekyo to Uchiha Itachi, or taken Itachi's Sharingan for himself, thereby synthesizing the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and elevating his combat power to the Kage level. Power is the cornerstone for carrying out one's will. With this level of Kage level combat power, he could either protect the Uchiha clan, suppress the clan members to maintain peace, or even stage a coup. But he did not do so, which indicates that he indeed does not possess the Mangekyo Sharingan. It couldn't be that Uchiha Itachi was truly a beast, truly killed the entire clan for a test of his resolve, and not, as he claimed, to protect his younger brother and the village's peace, which is why Uchiha Fugaku would rather die than give him the Mangekyo Sharingan, right? For Kishimoto to whitewash his favorite character, it is certainly impossible for Uchiha Fugaku to have the Mangekyo Sharingan. Although Uchiha Fugaku did not awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, through years of persistent training in fire-release chakra nature transformation, he still possessed Kage-level combat power. As a clan head, his strength was undoubtedly adequate. But facing Uchiha Gen, this statistical anomaly, his actions were futile. The gap between his strength and Uchiha Gen's strength was too vast. Even Uchiha Itachi with his Mangekyo was no match for Uchiha Gen, let alone Uchiha Fugaku. With a single punch, Uchiha Gen, with irresistible force, sent Uchiha Fugaku flying. Then, without hesitation, before anyone could react, he dug out Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan. And, while he was at it, he plunged his chakra blade into Uchiha Itachi's heart. No, Uchiha Fugaku, who had been sent flying, was still in midair, and the excellent dynamic vision of his three-tomo Sharingan allowed him to see every detail of Uchiha General killing Uchiha Itachi. At this moment, blood tears streamed from Uchiha Fugaku's eyes. For the first time, he so deeply hated his Sharingan, hated that he had seen the process of his son being killed so clearly, yet he was powerless and unable to change any of it. In that instant, Uchiha Fugaku felt all the calmness he had cultivated over decades of his ninja career shatter. He recalled the joy Itachi's birth had brought him, recalled Itachi's excellence over the years, and all of it was now ended by Uchiha General. He no longer cared about his dignity as clan head, he no longer cared that Uchiha General was the clan's rising star and future. He stared at Uchiha General with hatred. He now only wanted to kill this enemy who had murdered his most beloved son. Not just him, but Uchiha Makoto, who had been watching from the side, also showed extreme pain in her eyes at this moment. A chilling chakra permeated from the Nanga river bank, and the ocular power in Uchiha Makoto's eyes surged. The dashed lines of her three-tomo rapidly solidified, pushing towards the Mangekyo Sharingan. But ultimately, she had not trained much for many years, lacking some accumulation and foundation, and thus, the Mangekyo Sharingan did not awaken. However, Uchiha Fugaku, at this moment, broke the barrier between the three-tomo Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan. The tomo in his eyes connected into a single pattern, forming the design of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Subsequently, 4 black spheres appeared around Uchiha Fugaku. As these spheres appeared, the surrounding space became heavy. Great heavenly hand power. A peculiar expression appeared on Uchiha Gen's face as he recognized this Mangekyo Dojutsu, which originated from the Boruto manga updated in 2025 and belonged to Uchiha Sarada, Uchiha Fugaku's granddaughter. Its ability is to control gravity through the 4 black spheres, black hole whirlpools floating around, freely choosing the target of the effect, interfering with natural objects, and being able to absorb physical ninjutsu. Targets absorbed by the whirlpool become immobile and are crushed to pieces. This is an extremely powerful space-time dojutsu, a formidable ability that would not be considered outdated even when fighting an Otsutsuki. Although its appearance on Uchiha Fugaku seemed somewhat odd, it was inexplicably somewhat reasonable. After all, a granddaughter and grandfather have a strong blood relationship. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku's ocular power and chakra began to surge at a visible rate, quickly reaching 9 or even 10 times their previous levels. If Uchiha Fugaku was only barely kage level before, then at this moment, he instantly reached the level of a strong kage, even progressing towards the peak kage level. This level of strength was already enough to pose a threat to Uchiha General. However, Uchiha General had long anticipated this scenario. Rather, he had intentionally done so. Uchiha Itachi's ideology was problematic, and it was already very difficult to bring him back to protect the Uchiha clan, but Uchiha Fugaku could be. If he were to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan now and then integrate Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan, he could awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and achieve kage-level strength. At that time, even if he were not present, with Uchiha Obito, that beast, lurking nearby, the Uchiha clan could still be kept safe. However, before this plan could be implemented, Uchiha General needed to calm Uchiha Fugaku down first. Fortunately, he had already prepared for it. Under telekinesis control, the nerve-paralyzing toxins, a dirty trick he hadn't used much before, suddenly erupted. Uchiha Fugaku, who was just about to go on a rampage, suddenly fainted. Uchiha General unhurriedly placed Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan into the pre-prepared nutrient solution for preservation, then forced a D-rank side quest item worth 1000 reward points, an ice condensation pill, into the mouth of the already dying Uchiha Itachi. To prevent Uchiha Fugaku from going mad and slaughtering the Uchiha clan after waking up, Uchiha Itachi still could not die. 15 minutes later, inside the Uchiha clan shrine beside the Nanga River, Uchiha Fugaku suddenly awoke from his unconscious state. Looking around, Uchiha Fugaku recognized the place. It was the underground secret chamber of the clan shrine, where the stone tablet recording the clan's history and secrets was kept. Uchiha General sat nearby, watching him with a smile. Uchiha Fugaku's memories from before he was paralyzed and knocked unconscious by the neurotoxin instantly reconnected. He remembered that his most proud son, Uchiha Itachi, had been killed by Uchiha General not long ago. Rage surged in Uchiha Fugaku's heart. He now needed to use the power of his newly acquired Mangekyo Sharingan to kill Uchiha Gen and avenge his deceased son. However, in the next second, Uchiha Fugaku, who had just leapt up from the ground, preparing to attack Uchiha Gen, found his emotions instantly disrupted. His son, Uchiha Itachi, whose heart had been pierced and who should have been dead, was now frozen in an ice sculpture, lying not far from him. Although his chakra was still very weak, he was indeed alive and even slowly recovering. You did this on purpose. To provoke me into awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan. In an instant, most of the anger in Uchiha Fugaku's heart dissipated. His intelligent mind regained control, allowing him to understand everything. At this moment, two completely opposing emotions intertwined within Uchiha Fugaku's heart. One was the extreme emotion brought by the awakening of the Mangekyo Sharingan, which made him intensely hate Uchiha Gen, wishing he could eat his flesh and sleep on his skin. The other emotion was the joy and gratitude of regaining something lost. His most beloved and proud son, Itachi, was not dead, and he was grateful that Uchiha General had held back. Because of this, Uchiha Fugaku looked at Uchiha Gen, who was sitting to the side, with extremely complex eyes. You've awakened your Mangekyo Sharingan. Look at the stone tablet next to you. Uchiha Fugaku subconsciously followed the instruction. The enhanced visual prowess allowed him to see more content on the stone tablet, revealing the method to obtain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that would never go blind. These contents were something his previous 3 Tomo Sharingan could not see. Your Mangekyo Sharingan is very powerful, and the unique Mangekyo ability you awakened is the strongest space-time ability, but powerful abilities will make your Mangekyo Sharingan go blind even faster. After at most 2 uses, your vision will severely decline, and after 4 or 5 uses, you will go completely blind. To solve this problem, you must awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Gen's calm voice sounded from the side. He pulled out the test tube containing Uchiha Itachi's eyes and said, "Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan is your only solution to this problem. At that time, your Mangekyo Sharingan will not only stop going blind, but its visual prowess will also be elevated to Madara's level. At that time, you can implement your will, whether it's leading the clan in a coup or making the Konoha higher-ups abandon their oppression of the Uchiha clan and grant them fair treatment, all of this can be achieved. Those opposing factions within the clan will also no longer oppose you, but will truly regard you as a Uchiha clan head comparable to Madara. Normally, sparing Uchiha Itachi's life and helping Uchiha Fugaku awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan would be like raising a tiger to cause trouble. Regardless of how happy the ending might be, the mental damage Uchiha General inflicted on Uchiha Fugaku not long ago was real. The nature of the Mangekyo Sharingan dictates that Fugaku would certainly harbor a lingering hatred for Uchiha General. Even if he could control this obsession under normal circumstances, if one day he had a moment of weakness, he might seize an opportunity to explode on Uchiha General. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, with a lower limit of cage level and an upper limit of peak cage level combat power, cannot be underestimated by anyone. If Uchiha General hadn't entered the main god space, he definitely wouldn't have done something like raising a tiger to cause trouble. Killing Uchiha Fugaku after he acquired the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and mastering this power himself would be the optimal solution. But now he has to go to the main god space for missions and cannot stay in Konoha to protect the clan. At this time, he can only rely on Uchiha Fugaku, the clan head, to shoulder the important responsibility of protecting the clan. Regardless of whether Uchiha Fugaku is weak-willed or whether he failed in raising his children, their stances are consistent when it comes to protecting the Uchiha clan. In this situation, Uchiha Itachi being alive is a chain and a weakness for Uchiha Fugaku. If he dares to go against Uchiha Gen's wishes, he will have to seriously consider his family. Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Makoto, Uchiha Sasuke, these are the people Uchiha Fugaku cares about and wants to protect. And to be safe, Uchiha Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan will also come into play. He will use Koto Amatsukami to implant the obsession of protecting the Uchiha clan into Uchiha Fugaku. As Uchiha General described it, Uchiha Fugaku unconsciously imagined himself leading the Uchiha clan out of their current predicament of being targeted by the Konoha higher-ups, and then being worshipped and respected by all clan members. He recalled the past, how he was suppressed by the Konoha higher-ups, accused of being weak by his clan members, and caught in the middle, suffering humiliation from both sides. If he could truly achieve the scenario Uchiha General described, it would be too wonderful. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku's lips unconsciously curved upwards, harder to suppress than an AK. However, after indulging in his fantasies for a while, Uchiha Fugaku still suppressed the wild thoughts in his mind. He looked at the ice-sealed Uchiha Itachi and sighed, "Gen-kun, your idea is very good, but I am already 40 years old. If this were the Sengoku period, this would be an age where I could be a grandfather and call myself an old man. Compared to Itachi, I don't have many years left to live. Why don't you transplant my Sharingan to Itachi, and let him awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan to protect the clan? That way, the clan can remain strong and stable for at least 40 or 50 years into the future." Uchiha Fugaku's Sharingan was awakened to avenge Uchiha Itachi after all, so he had a deep love for his son in his heart. Don't you know, Uchiha Itachi has already contacted the mastermind behind the Nine-Tailed Fox's attack, the masked man who caused our clan to be suspected by the Konoha higher-ups, and together with Danzo, the leader of Root, they plan to kill all the young, old, and strong of our Uchiha clan. Under such circumstances, I dare not even imagine what would happen if Uchiha Itachi were to obtain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Gen's simple sentence silenced Uchiha Fugaku. Siding with the Konoha higher-ups to destroy his own clan, that indeed sounded like something his son would do. Then, Uchiha General offered his solution. If you, clan head, truly wish to pass down the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, giving it to Sasuke is a good choice. I can take him as my disciple and teach him the correct ideology for protecting the clan. Then, what's the price? Gen-kun, you're giving me so many benefits, what do you want in return? Uchiha Fugaku was silent for a moment before speaking. Uchiha General had given too much. He had given him the power of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the dignity of becoming a powerful Uchiha clan head, the honor of leading his clan to glory, and he had spared the life of his son, Itachi, who could be called a sinner deserving of 1,000 cuts. He was also going to become the teacher of his second son, Sasuke, help him inherit the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and even his future prosperity and education problems were solved. These benefits were simply too numerous, and Uchiha Fugaku didn't know what he could do to repay Uchiha General. He was afraid that these beautiful things were just a trap described by Uchiha General. In the adult world, there is no inexplicable love or hate, only eternal self-interest. You must be very curious why my strength has increased so much. Uchiha General spoke. Uchiha Fugaku nodded. He was indeed very curious. How could a Chunin, in less than a year, become stronger than the Hokage? How was this achieved? After I was kidnapped, I accidentally entered a secret realm, where I underwent a near-death trial and gained an increase in power. This time I returned because I knew the Uchiha clan was facing a crisis of extinction, so I temporarily came out of the secret realm to solve the problem. Next, I still need to go back to train in order to gain even greater power. Before I truly reach the peak, I cannot extricate myself to protect the clan, so I can only entrust this responsibility to you, as the clan head, and to Sasuke, who will grow up in the future. There is no conflict of interest between us, only the shared stance of protecting the clan. Uchiha General replied, informing Uchiha Fugaku about the main god space in a different way. His tone was sincere, his expression earnest, and he made no attempt to conceal his chakra fluctuations. Because of this, Uchiha Fugaku knew what he was saying was true the moment he heard it. Alright, I agree. Sasuke's matter, I'll leave it to you. Uchiha Fugaku pondered for a long time before slowly nodding. Even though he loved his eldest son very much, he understood that Itachi, whose ideology was problematic, could no longer be relied upon. He then began to place his hopes on his younger son. Then, a pleasant cooperation. Let's go out and explain the situation to the clan members. Uchiha General spoke. Alright, Uchiha Fugaku nodded. Then, the two walked out of the basement. Uchiha Fugaku also brought Uchiha Itachi with him, so that the clan's medical ninja could treat Itachi. At this time, all the Jonin of the Uchiha clan had gathered in the clan's shrine. Seeing Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Fugaku emerge with calm expressions, walking side by side, they knew that the two had already discussed and agreed on cooperation. Immediately, expressions of joy appeared on their faces. Just as Uchiha Fugaku could understand that Uchiha Gen's series of actions were to stimulate him to awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan, the other clan members naturally understood as well. This was a kind of, I'm doing this for your own good, arrogance unique to the Uchiha, and everyone possessed it, so it was easier to understand Uchiha Gen's thought process. Gen-kun knew Itachi was unreliable, so he found a way to stimulate the clan head to awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan, increasing the clan's strength. But Itachi is still a member of the Uchiha clan. Even if their ideals clashed, it wasn't to the point where he had to die, so Gen-kun found a way to save his life. At this moment, everyone confirmed this point. No matter how easily swayed Uchiha Fugaku was, or how indecisive he might be, his desire for the clan's continued existence was genuine, and he was undoubtedly on the clan's side. The clan head awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan would definitely be more beneficial to the Uchiha clan than Itachi, a young clan head who wasn't on the clan's side. At this moment, everyone looked at Uchiha General with intense admiration. This young man not only displayed overwhelming strength against Uchiha Itachi in taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu, but he also wholeheartedly considered the clan, both increasing the clan's strength and not undermining its unity. In an instant, Uchiha General gained the approval of all the high-ranking ninja of the Uchiha clan. There was nothing better than the two strongest members of the clan, Fugaku and Gen, being united. Next, the Uchiha clan would certainly be able to display its power and change its current situation of being targeted by the entire village and disliked by everyone. Next, Gen-kun will preside over this clan meeting. Uchiha Fugaku announced, then instructed a medical ninja present to treat Uchiha Itachi. Everyone knows about my kidnapping approximately a year ago. Actually, this incident was done by Danzo. This inherently evil Shimura Danzo, in order to become Hokage, has been secretly plotting for even greater power. He not only dug up the first Hokage's grave and transplanted his cells into himself, but he was also coveting the power of our Uchiha Sharingan. If I hadn't been lucky, I would have died at the hands of this inherently evil Shimura Danzo. Not only was I kidnapped, but do you remember Shisui, who died 2 years ago? He was ambushed and killed by Danzo, who then faked his suicide. Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan was taken by Danzo and transplanted into himself. Next, I plan to go to the Hokage to demand an explanation. What do you, my uncles and elders, think? Uchiha General didn't waste any words at this time, directly calling on the clan's ninja to set off for the Hokage building to eliminate the treacherous. Feigning compliance was something to do when power was insufficient. Since Uchiha Fugaku had also awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan and reached an agreement with him, the next step was naturally to go directly and resolve the problem once and for all. In the current situation, even if Uchiha Obito made a move, it wouldn't affect the overall situation. He could completely hold back Uchiha Obito, while Uchiha Fugaku, leading the other Uchiha elites, would be enough to deal with the Konoha higher-ups. The Great Sun Spirit Eye technique was practically unbeatable against the current version of ninja. As long as Danzo was quickly eliminated and the Sharingan on him exposed, the other Konoha ninja clans would 100% remain neutral, or even side with the Uchiha clan. Next, it would be a matter between the Uchiha clan and the Konoha higher-ups. If the Konoha higher-ups were sensible, then after Danzo was dealt with, everyone could maintain superficial peace. If they insisted on a fight to the death, then it wouldn't be the Uchiha clan that would die, but the Konoha higher-ups. Upon hearing the explosive news from Uchiha Gen, the Uchiha Jonin attending the clan meeting immediately erupted in an uproar. I've long suspected that the Konoha higher-ups assassinated Shisui, but I never thought it was true. They wouldn't doubt that Uchiha General was speaking nonsense, because the Konoha higher-ups' targeting and discrimination against the Uchiha clan over the years had been undisguised. In such circumstances, it was possible for them to do anything to suppress the Uchiha clan. Of course, even if Uchiha General was speaking nonsense, it didn't matter. Having been suppressed for so long, the ninja of the Uchiha clan had long been unable to bear it, and the planning of a coup was not a new development. Now that Uchiha Gen, this newly emerged Uchiha powerhouse, also had intentions of a coup, the two sides naturally saw eye to eye. Even if they died in battle, they would not continue to live ignominiously in Konoha village. Clan head, give the order. We must seek justice for Shisui-kun and Gen-kun. Ninja of the Uchiha clan can die on the battlefield, but they must never die in the village. Charge the Hokage building and kill the inherently evil Shimura Danzo. Inside the family shrine, everyone was filled with righteous indignation. Normally, at this moment, Uchiha Fugaku, the clan head, would come out to mediate, but this time he did not do so. Instead, he gave a decisive order. 3 Tomo Sharingan elite Jonin will follow me to the Hokage building, the rest will remain in the family to protect the clan members. Uchiha Fugaku spoke with a cold tone. The intensity of the upcoming battle would be very high. Those not at the 3 Tomo quasi-cage level had no need to participate, and the family also needed people to guard it. No one had any objection to this decision. Immediately, the entire Uchiha clan began to act. All 2,000+ clan members gathered at the family shrine, guarded by ordinary Jonin of the clan leading other Chunin and Genin. And the 30 elite Jonin, after completing their preparations, followed behind Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Fugaku, heading straight towards the Hokage building. Time, back to a little while ago, when the battle between Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Itachi had just ended. This young man is actually so powerful. At this moment, all the ninja clans who had witnessed this battle felt a sense of awe. The older generation of ninja still remembered the power of Susanoo, a terrifying force that stood shoulder to shoulder with the wood release of the god of ninja, ending the age of war. And today, this divine power that ended the age of war, once again manifested, was shattered by a single punch from a young Uchiha. Such power was truly astonishing. Perhaps, this was a power that even the third Hokage, hailed as the strongest of his generation, did not possess. 13-year-old Uchiha General was already so powerful. How powerful would he become when he reached adulthood? Could he reproduce the power of Uchiha Madara, which was comparable to the god of ninja? At that time, the Uchiha clan would not only be able to change its current situation but perhaps also lead Konoha to become even more prosperous. Some ninja clans, at this moment, had quietly begun to change their views on the Uchiha clan. Perhaps, they would need to change the way they interacted with the Uchiha in the future. Aligning with the Uchiha was more beneficial for the future survival and development of their families. Meanwhile, in the Hokage building, the Konoha higher-ups were collectively silent. Even Danzo, who had been the most vociferous earlier, demanding to kill the entire Uchiha family, no longer had his initial confidence. The terrifying power of shattering Susanoo with a single punch, this strength was too terrifying, reminding Danzo of the first Hokage's monstrous strength. Unlike the three hardline elders who had fallen silent, the third Hokage, who had previously been a stability-maintaining faction, was now beginning to consider the elders' opinions. Should they act now and destroy the Uchiha clan? He could still fight now and prevent the Uchiha clan from making rash moves. A few years later, when his physical condition further declined and Uchiha Gen's strength further grew, how would they deal with the Uchiha clan? The third Hokage clearly remembered how he and the Konoha higher-ups had targeted the Uchiha clan, that kind of all-encompassing targeting and suppression. Even he, the instigator who allowed Danzo to do the dirty work, felt it was excessive. By then, the Uchiha clan, let alone returning it in full, even half of it would be unbearable for him. If the Uchiha clan gained power and acted even more excessively, their families might cease to exist. All members of the Uchiha clan are gathering at the shrine, and other ninja are preparing for battle. It seems they are about to launch a rebellion. Before the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was deep in thought, could make up his mind, a ninja monitoring the Uchiha clan's movements rushed to report. Prepare for battle, follow me to suppress the rebellion. Also, send people to notify the major ninja clans and the Hokage-aligned ninja to join the battle. Immediately, Hiruzen Sarutobi no longer hesitated and made up his mind. Subsequently, the elites of the Sarutobi, Mitokado, Utatane, and Shimura clans, who had already prepared for battle, as well as Anbu and Root personnel, and many strong individuals from the Jonin class, all began to move out at this moment. They maintained formation, moving swiftly across rooftops and walls, surrounding the Uchiha clan's compound. On the Hokage Rock, amidst a hidden bush, a comical voice rang out. "Whoa, it's getting lively." A pale-faced strange person, the white part, spoke to the man wearing an orange Uzumaki mask beside him. "Shut up, call me Madara," Uchiha Obito reprimanded, but then remembered what had happened not long ago. At that time, Uchiha Itachi had found him, requesting his help. They would team up after a period of time to destroy the Uchiha clan together, killing everyone except his younger brother Sasuke. Uchiha Obito, who originally only wanted to collect some 3 Tomo Sharingan as resurrection insurance, didn't expect this junior of his clan to be so ruthless. However, this matter was also beneficial to him. Destroying most of the Uchiha clan meant he wouldn't have to worry about any troublesome Mangekyo abilities emerging from the remaining people. This was beneficial for his future execution of the Eye of the Moon plan, so Uchiha Obito went with the flow and agreed to the clan destruction plan, and then invited Uchiha Itachi to join the Akatsuki organization to contribute to his Eye of the Moon plan. But he didn't expect that today, another junior of his clan named Uchiha Gen would suddenly appear. Not only did he display immense strength, but he also dared to lead the Uchiha clan directly in a coup. Let's observe first, and act when the opportunity arises. Uchiha Obito watched Kakashi, who was already in his 20s this year, among the suppression forces, and spoke calmly, then disappeared into a spatial vortex. On the outskirts of the Uchiha clan territory, at the edge of Konoha village, Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Fugaku had just led the clan's elites out of their territory when they encountered the ninja of the third Hokage's faction. Both sides were fully armed, exuding a chilling aura. Observing the 32 Uchiha clan ninja, the Hokage's faction, outnumbering them tenfold, was surprisingly more nervous. Someone couldn't help but swallow, cold sweat trickling down his forehead. Though outnumbered, the opposing force consisted of elite Jonin who had awakened their 3 Tomo Sharingan. It was well known that Uchiha clan ninja possessed a powerful burst ability that others lacked. If, during the fight, one of the Uchiha clan ninja were to awaken a Mangekyo Sharingan, the situation would become even more dire. The power of Susanoo had been clearly witnessed by many during the recent battle between Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Itachi. Nevertheless, to protect Konoha, even if it meant sacrificing their lives, these rebellious Uchiha had to be suppressed. Many ninja from the Hokage's faction made up their minds at that moment. Fugaku, with so many of you gathered, are you planning a rebellion? At this moment, Hiruzen Sarutobi took the initiative, shouting loudly. Having decided to suppress the rebellion, Hiruzen Sarutobi became resolute, no longer hesitant. Even if he died here today, he would curb the Uchiha clan's ambition, protect his family's interests, and safeguard the peace and stability of Konoha village. Facing Hiruzen Sarutobi's interrogation, Uchiha Fugaku remained silent. He knew he wasn't a strong-willed person. Even with the Mangekyo Sharingan awakened and the immense power it granted him, facing the Konoha higher-ups who had suppressed them for so many years, Uchiha Fugaku's mindset wasn't easily changed in a short time. To avoid losing his composure during the confrontation, Uchiha Fugaku directly handed the right to speak to Uchiha General. Facing the third Hokage's questioning, Uchiha General casually responded, "You should ask your Hokage's assistant, Danzo Shimura. He has been secretly accumulating power and plotting a coup to seize the Hokage position. For this, he didn't hesitate to ambush and kill Shisui in the village, taking his Mangekyo Sharingan and transplanting it onto himself. He also conspired with the Konoha rogue ninja, Orochimaru, to dig up the first Hokage's grave and dismember his body, and kidnapped dozens to hundreds of children in the village to research Hashirama cells. As for his other acts of seizing secret techniques and clan members from various ninja clans to join Root, and stirring up enemies for the village by acting in Konoha's name, I won't go into detail one by one." As he spoke, Uchiha General didn't wait for Hiruzen Sarutobi to say anything else and attacked without hesitation. Wind release chakra swirled rapidly around him, his second stage gene lock was activated, and telekinesis enhanced his body, making his speed extreme. Before anyone could react, Uchiha General instantly crossed the distance between himself and Danzo Shimura, launching a punch imbued with the force of wind and thunder towards him. At that moment, no one had time to react. Boom! A thunderous explosion, like a sudden clap of thunder, echoed. Danzo, protected by numerous root ninja, was instantly struck by this terrifying punch, powerful enough to shatter Susanoo. However, this punch did not have the intended effect. Wood chips flew as Danzo was sent flying. Possessing Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan, he had already anticipated Uchiha Gen's attack. Although his body couldn't evade the extremely fast taijutsu attack in time, he had already performed hand seals to use wood release for defense. As Uchiha Gen's attack arrived, thick trees grew from Danzo's body. These tough trees absorbed the full force of Uchiha Gen's punch. Although Danzo was sent flying and crashed through a wall, he was ultimately unharmed. Uchiha General didn't care that his initial strike failed to achieve its goal. After one attack, he stopped pursuing and instantly returned to his clansman's side. At this moment, the dust from the collapsed wall dissipated. The Hokage faction ninja, who had been about to loudly scold the Uchiha for their rebellion, found their open mouths unable to utter a single word. Everyone clearly saw the bandages on their Hokage's assistant, Danzo Shimura's face and body, tearing open. In his eye socket was Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan. On his pale-skinned arm were 10 densely packed 3-tomo Sharingan, along with the face of the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. These were the results of Danzo's years of secretly ambushing isolated Uchiha and collaborating with Orochimaru to research Hashirama cells. Seeing this scene, all the ninja present couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. In the face of such undeniable facts, even the Hokage faction loyalists who unconditionally trusted the Konoha higher-ups had to admit that what Uchiha General had just said was true. Many small and medium-sized clans and civilian jonin who had joined this battle in support of the Hokage now instinctively began to retreat, moving away from Hiruzen Sarutobi and the other Konoha higher-ups. Might Guy, who had been eager to take action earlier, was now silent without Kakashi needing to restrain him. The various major clans, such as the Hyuga, Ino Shikacho, and Aburame clans, who had just received orders to assess the situation and act accordingly, now stood unequivocally on the Uchiha's side. Previously, everyone had only speculated that the Konoha higher-ups had committed many inhumane acts. But now, these suspicions were confirmed. The Hashirama cells and Sharingan on Danzo's body were irrefutable evidence. If he dared to dig up the first Hokage's grave to research Hashirama cells and seize the Uchiha clan's Sharingan today, no one dared to imagine what he would dare to do tomorrow. Although there was no prior coordination, everyone reached a tacit understanding at this moment. The Konoha higher-ups had to pay the price today. Konoha was a large ninja clan alliance, and the Hokage was the leader of this alliance, not an autocratic emperor. With the exposure of Danzo's scandalous acts, Hiruzen Sarutobi and the others had, in fact, lost their qualifications to continue as Konoha higher-ups. The darkness displayed by Danzo was too astonishing, creating a shocking feeling akin to someone publicly urinating and playing with it. Not only outsiders, but even the clansmen of the Konoha Elder Council's families began to look at their leader with a strange gaze. If it weren't for their shared fate, they might have wanted to rebel as well. Shimura Danzo, you are inherently evil. The second Hokage didn't let you become the third because he saw through your inherently evil nature. Why don't you surrender and confess your crimes? The operation to suppress the Uchiha fell silent. After this deafening silence persisted for some time, Uchiha General suddenly roared, breaking the quiet in the field. Facing Uchiha Gen's questioning and the strange looks from the many ninja clans present, Danzo Shimura remained calm. Not a hint of panic appeared on his face. Since he had already prepared himself to wipe out the entire Uchiha clan, using wood release and Sharingan in public was an unavoidable consequence. Therefore, on his way here, Danzo Shimura had already prepared a complete set of excuses. As long as he won, all problems would cease to be problems. Confessing and submitting to punishment was something only the losers needed to consider. You sharp-tongued Uchiha brat, the wood release power on me belonging to Shodai First Sama was originally agreed to be transplanted to me by Shodai First Sama before he passed away, and these Sharingan were entrusted to me by Uchiha comrades who were loyal to Konoha before their deaths. The purpose was to allow me to act at critical moments to suppress you Uchiha traitors who disrupt the village's peace. Danzo Shimura coldly stared at Uchiha General. He unhurriedly unwrapped the remaining bandages on his body, already entering a full combat state as he spoke. He believed that Hiruzen, as an old friend for many years, would ultimately stand on his side. Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan had never been displayed in public, and only a few people recognized his Mangekyo Sharingan. Indeed, Danzo's words fooled many ninja from the Hokage faction, calming their strange expressions considerably. Compared to believing that the Konoha higher-ups were utterly dark, it was easier to believe that the Konoha higher-ups were noble and righteous, inheriting such inhumane power with hidden difficulties for the sake of protecting Konoha. However, these words could not fool people like Kakashi, who had frequent contact with Root, nor could they fool the various ninja clans who had long been suppressed by the Konoha higher-ups and were already discontent. At this moment, no one spoke, nor did they rush to attack. Everyone's gaze turned towards third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, waiting for him to make a decision. At this moment, Hiruzen Sarutobi was also conflicted about whether to protect Danzo and whether to continue attacking the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan had already given him an out. As long as he was willing to pin all the blame on Danzo Shimura, this incident today would not involve him. To be honest, when he saw the wood release cells and so many Sharingan on Danzo, Hiruzen Sarutobi was extremely shocked, and his first thought was that he must cut ties with him, otherwise his noble and righteous Hokage image would be completely ruined. But Danzo's explanation, although full of loopholes, it barely explained the origin of his power and whitewashed Konoha's darkness. With Danzo's powerful combat ability, he had a greater chance of subduing the Uchiha clan and suppressing their rebellion. Whether we fight or not, we have lost the trust of these ninja clans. If Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha General were to conspire to assassinate me later, without so many strong individuals around today, I would find it very difficult to resist. Also, that Sharingan belonging to Shisui and Danzo's eye cannot be left to him, otherwise it's too dangerous. Meeting the cold gazes of the many ninja clans, Hiruzen Sarutobi's thoughts churned, and he finally decided to act. If he won, even if he had to step down later, he could maintain some dignity. If he lost, or if he cut ties with Danzo now and gave up this powerful combat force, then they would become helpless prey before the Uchiha. With him and Danzo working together to block Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Fugaku, the other Uchiha Jonin would not be able to cause much trouble in front of the many elites of the Hokage faction. Thinking this, he no longer hesitated. Uchiha General deserted for a year and returned to attack the Konoha higher-ups. He is undoubtedly a rogue ninja. Everyone, follow me to suppress the traitors and protect the village's peace. By using the justification of suppressing rebellion, he forced the ninja clans not to assist the Uchiha clan. As he spoke, he formed hand signs and immediately used a shuriken shadow clone jutsu. Immediately, dense shuriken rained down, enveloping the Uchiha clan ninja. At the same time, he formed hand signs to summon his summoning beast, Enma, allowing this powerful combatant to also join the battlefield. Seeing that Hokage-sama had taken the lead, the loyalists of the Hokage faction no longer hesitated and also formed hand signs to attack. Although many ninja clan members and some civilian ninja who harbored doubts chose to stand aside at this moment, a large number of people still followed Hiruzen Sarutobi into action. Over 200 Jonin acting together instantly displayed terrifying power. Various ninjutsu shimmered with light, illuminating a large section of the sky, enveloping the Uchiha ninja. Because they were worried about the Uchiha ninja activating Mangekyo Sharingan during the fight, the Hokage faction did not hold back at all at this moment, using their full strength, striving to instantly kill all Uchiha ninja in the shortest possible time. In this instant, the air was filled with high temperatures, the earth trembled, strong winds blew, and lightning flashed, as if the apocalypse had arrived. Daijiring. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku's eyes widened, and he had already activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. He unleashed his Mangekyo Dojutsu, and immediately 4 gravity vortices, simulating black holes, appeared around him. These gravity vortices expanded rapidly, protecting the entire Uchiha clan ninja within them, directly facing the dense barrage of ninjutsu. At this moment, blood tears streamed from Uchiha Fugaku's eyes as if they were endless. He could clearly feel intense pain throughout his body, and his ocular power and chakra were gushing out like water. If he continued fighting at this intensity, Uchiha General was absolutely right. His eyesight would significantly decline after 1 or 2 uses, and his Mangekyo Sharingan would go completely blind after 3 to 5 uses. But the strength of Daijiring was unquestionable. Even with the Legion-level ninjutsu used by over 200 Jonin working together, and even though the surrounding buildings and ground had already collapsed, all the Uchiha ninja at this moment remained unharmed. All the ninjutsu were intercepted and absorbed by the gravity vortices. Subsequently, Uchiha Fugaku began his offense. The gravity vortices shifted from defense to offense, emitting extremely terrifying gravitational pull. The more than 200 Jonin of the Hokage faction found their bodies uncontrollably floating into the air, being pulled towards the gravity vortices by an invisible force. The dozens of ninja closest and flying fastest were instantly crushed into dust as soon as they approached the gravity vortices. Great Mud Wall. Third Hokage, sweating profusely, quickly formed hand signs to change the large-scale terrain. A wide city wall rose up, cutting off the gravity vortex's pull, and also making Uchiha Fugaku unstable, preventing him from concentrating on his dojutsu. What kind of ninjutsu is this? It's so powerful. At this moment, all the ninja from the various ninja clans who were observing the battle were astonished. Everyone looked at Uchiha Fugaku with surprised eyes. The performance of Uchiha Itachi, a Mangekyo Sharingan ninja, was clear for all other ninja to see. To say he was strong, he was indeed very strong, a powerhouse comparable to a Hokage. But that was about it. A few more Jonin could barely contend with him, and if a group of Jonin swarmed him, Uchiha Itachi would have to flee in disarray. Uchiha Gen, this new Uchiha genius, was probably at a similar level in everyone's eyes. Even if he was stronger than Uchiha Itachi, it was only by a limited margin, still within the realm of what could be understood and overwhelmed by sheer numbers. But now, the strength Uchiha Fugaku displayed exceeded everyone's imagination. He was single-handedly challenging over 200 Jonin, and he was completely dominating them, without even using the divine power of Susanoo. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku laughed heartily. Although his whole body was in intense pain from the rapid consumption of chakra, and his visual prowess was rapidly declining, he would soon go blind. But the feeling of wantonly unleashing power and slaughtering all around him was simply too wonderful. Seeing these Konoha higher-ups thrown into disarray, all the grievances he had suffered for years seemed to be released at this moment. Clan head is mighty. At this time, the other Uchiha Jonin, protected by Uchiha Fugaku, had fanatical eyes, looking at Uchiha Fugaku with adoration. Even the Uchiha ninja who were most at odds with Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but express their respect for the clan head at this moment. I'll help you. At this moment, someone finally couldn't help but step in and place their bet. The leader of a small ninja clan, who had been observing from the side, unhesitatingly formed hand signs and launched an attack towards the Hokage faction. His son had mysteriously disappeared in the village years ago, with no body found. It was just revealed that it was most likely Danzo, in collusion with Orochimaru, who did it, and his beloved third Hokage had been constantly protecting his disciple, which filled this small ninja clan leader with hatred, but he dared not speak out. And now, Uchiha Fugaku's displayed immense strength finally gave him confidence, prompting him to make up his mind to stand with the Uchiha and resist the Konoha higher-ups. And this small ninja clan leader was like a fuse, instantly igniting the situation on the field. Many of the observing small and medium-sized ninja clans and civilian ninja decided to seek wealth in danger. Let's eliminate these utterly corrupt Konoha higher-ups. Afterwards, when merits are rewarded, everyone will benefit. My Uchiha clan will not monopolize this glory. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku, following Uchiha Gen's reminder, spoke to win over allies. These words were the final straw that broke the camel's back. The Hyuga and Aburame, these two large ninja clans, couldn't help but switch sides at this moment. The Konoha higher-ups had long crossed their bottom line. Now that Uchiha Fugaku was displaying such divine bravery, it was the perfect time to strike while the iron was hot. Especially Hyuga Hiyashi, he unhesitatingly unleashed an 8 trigrams empty palm directly towards Homura Mitokado and Udatane Kaharu, who were closest to him. A few years ago, it was these old geezers who forced his younger brother, Hyuga Hizashi, to his death. After this battle, even if the Uchiha didn't fulfill their promise of sharing Konoha's glory, at worst, they would just leave Konoha and stop being ninja, returning to being their nobles. In an instant, the Hokage faction's situation took a drastic turn for the worse. Hiruzen Sarutobi also felt some regret at this moment. He had previously observed Uchiha Fugaku activating his Mangekyo Sharingan through the telescope jutsu, but he hadn't been too concerned, confident he could take him down. But now the situation had spiraled out of his control. He hadn't expected Uchiha Fugaku's ocular ninjutsu to be so terrifyingly strong, his combat power suddenly surpassing his own, who was known as the strongest third Hokage in history. 5 Great Elemental Bullet Jutsu. However, at this point, Hiruzen Sarutobi had no room for regret and could only go all in. He formed hand signs, created 4 shadow clones, and simultaneously formed hand signs to unleash his strongest ninjutsu. The third Hokage had made up his mind. First, drain Uchiha Fugaku's visual prowess, and then use his powerful taijutsu, strong enough to send the nine-tailed flying with a single blow, to decide the outcome. Next, after dealing with the Uchiha, he would deal with the other rebellious ninja clans. Within the battlefield, the situation changed dramatically. Outside the battlefield, Uchiha Obito, who had been leisurely observing, also had a drastic change in expression. He had initially only intended to watch this internal conflict, taking advantage of the chaos to collect some 3 Tomo Sharingan as a revival ward for his Izanagi, just ensuring that Kakashi wouldn't die here. Whether it was Uchiha Fugaku, who had activated his Mangekyo Sharingan, or Uchiha Gen, whose strength surpassed the Mangekyo Sharingan, Obito wasn't too concerned. After all, they couldn't defeat him with his Kamui, and it wouldn't affect his future Eye of the Moon plan. But now, Obito discovered that Uchiha Fugaku's ocular ninjutsu intensity had reached such a terrifying level that he now possessed the ability to threaten him. Moreover, and most crucially, Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo would prevent Fugaku's Mangekyo Sharingan from going blind, giving him the qualification to advance to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. If this continued, and Uchiha Fugaku exchanged his eyes after this battle, with his ocular ninjutsu intensity, even the real Uchiha Madara would probably find him troublesome if he revived. Therefore, Uchiha Obito instantly dropped his leisure, his expression becoming serious. He decided to make his move and join this battle. Nothing else mattered, but Uchiha Fugaku had to die. Whether his Sharingan was taken or destroyed, it simply couldn't remain out there. He watched the battle's progression, watched the ninja of the Hokage faction continuously dying, and watched Uchiha Fugaku's chakra and visual prowess continuously diminish. He watched Uchiha General also join the battle, leaving Uchiha Fugaku's side. At this moment, Uchiha Obito suddenly used Kamui to shift his position, appearing beside Uchiha Fugaku. One hand produced a yin-yang release black rod, aiming to stab Uchiha Fugaku's shoulder to restrict his chakra flow, while the other hand unhesitatingly went for Uchiha Fugaku's eyes. This attack was too sudden, no one had expected it. Even Uchiha Fugaku hadn't expected it, and by the time he wanted to counterattack, it was already too late. Hey, got you. And at this very moment, Uchiha Gen, who had been observing the battlefield, finally made his move. He unleashed an ability he had never shown before. He opened his gene lock, gathering all his telekinesis with all his might, concentrating this invisible and intangible telekinesis into a single point, a terrifying force capable of crushing mountains, and pressed it towards Uchiha Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan. Directly attacking the human body with telekinesis is not very effective. Its power is greatly offset by the life magnetic field of the living body and the internal energy, and one must also consider the opponent's physical strength, whether it is strong enough to resist your telekinesis attack. In this situation, it is more energy efficient and powerful to directly enhance oneself with telekinesis and punch, or to control objects for attack. But now, Uchiha General was targeting not a whole body, but one of Uchiha Obito's eyes. What he used was telekinesis, which had never been displayed in the ninja world, giving him an absolute intelligence advantage. Although the eye Uchiha Obito was attacked was a Mangekyo Sharingan, an extraordinary organ, it still could not fully withstand Uchiha Gen's long-prepared telekinesis attack. Uchiha Obito, who had a triumphant smile on his face and was attacking Uchiha Fugaku, let out an uncontrolled scream. The Mangekyo he used to activate Kamui to phase his body was directly crushed by telekinesis, and blood uncontrollably dripped from Uchiha Obito's eye socket. At this moment, Uchiha General punched out, intending to directly smash Uchiha Obito's entire head into a broken watermelon. Uchiha Jr., I underestimated you. At this moment, Uchiha Obito's scream disappeared, and he spoke, imitating Uchiha Madara's voice. However, Uchiha Gen's punch had already passed through his head, failing to hit the target. He had activated Izanagi, consuming a previously stored 3-Tomo Sharingan, to restore his Mangekyo Sharingan that Uchiha General had just crushed, and now he had phased to avoid the attack. The mastermind behind the Nine-Tailed Fox's attack, you, who possess the Sharingan, actually attacked the Uchiha clan. It seems the previous speculation was true. It was Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo, and Yukonoha higher-ups who, in order to regain power from the 4th Hokage, allowed this would-release Sharingan experimental subject to unleash the Nine-Tailed Fox's attack during the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki's childbirth. You, who caused the deaths of the 4th Hokage and the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki, then made our Uchiha clan take the blame. Truly worthy of being the strongest Hokage in history, your internal strife capabilities are truly unmatched. Uchiha Gen's cold voice echoed across the battlefield. The orange swirl-masked man with the Mangekyo Sharingan being the mastermind behind the Nine-Tailed Fox's attack was not a top-secret piece of information in the village. At least the mid to high-level personnel knew about it. It was precisely because of this that the Konoha higher-ups were able to suppress the Uchiha clan so smoothly all these years, to the point where even the Uchiha clan themselves dared not speak loudly. But now, the situation had reversed. This mastermind behind the Nine-Tailed Fox's attack actually came to help the Konoha higher-ups, Danzo and others, which proved the unspeakable close relationship between the two sides. At this moment, the Ino Shika-cho clans, who were still observing, could no longer stand by. They were generational allies with Sarutobi. Previously, due to the darkness displayed by the Konoha higher-ups, they chose to remain neutral out of past friendship. But now, all kinds of evidence proved that the 3rd Hokage had caused the death of the 4th Hokage, their greatly invested ally, causing them huge losses, which made these three clans unable to resist switching sides at this moment. Today we're going to blow up with these old fools. How can we make Konoha better with you worms? From now on, their Ino Shika-cho will share Konoha's glory with the Uchiha. Uchiha Jr., how dare you ignore me? Uchiha Obito was immediately angered when he saw Uchiha General completely disregard him. At the Ninja Academy, you called Obito a dead last, and Obito didn't argue with you, but now Obito was walking around as Uchiha Madara. It was simply outrageous for a Uchiha Jr. to disrespect a great senior. However, just as Uchiha Obito opened his mouth to scold, he found that the scene before him had changed, and time seemed to have returned to a short while ago, when he had just activated Izanagi to restore his Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Gen's words about his collusion with the Konoha higher-ups were played back again. Izanami. After trying a few times, Uchiha Obito was immediately shocked. Izanami is a forbidden jutsu specifically designed to counter Izanagi, its purpose being to prevent internal strife within the Uchiha clan due to the struggle for Sharingan. Uchiha Obito knew the situation was bad now. To break the Izanami, this forbidden jutsu specifically designed to counter Izanagi, he had to admit his mistake and abandon the effect of Izanagi changing unfavorable reality. If he abandoned this effect, his Kamui Sharingan would go blind. If he didn't abandon it, being in an inescapable genjutsu in the middle of a battlefield basically meant certain death. 9 minutes and 40 seconds left. Outside, one of Uchiha Gen's Sharingan had already gone blind. Although he himself hadn't learned Izanami yet, and didn't have the time to learn it, Before heading into battle, Uchiha General had asked Uchiha Fugaku to use a transcription seal to plant an Izanami in his eye. Uchiha Gen's other Sharingan had a transcription seal of an Izanagi, and these two forbidden jutsus were specifically prepared for Uchiha Obito. As long as this dog, Uchiha Obito, was dealt with, even if it cost many reward points in the main god space to repair his eyes, it would be worth it. However, the current situation was not ideal. Although he successfully controlled Uchiha Obito with Izanami, his Kamui phasing and Izanagi were still active, preventing Uchiha Gen from killing him directly right now. The duration of Izanagi is strongly correlated with the user's personal strength. With Obito's half Hashirama cells and Mangekyo's ocular power, it could last for 10 minutes. However, once that time passed, he would die. The only thing I need to guard against now is Black Zetsu coming to rescue Uchiha Obito. Black Zetsu normally has cage-level combat power, and he has a one-time use killing move that even 6 paths level powerhouses can't evade, which can forcibly control. I need to be careful. With thoughts racing, Uchiha General guarded against Black Zetsu hiding in the shadows. But in the end, Black Zetsu did not appear to save Obito. Even after Uchiha General dug out Obito's Kamui Sharingan, punched Uchiha Obito's head into a broken watermelon, and even burned his entire corpse to ashes with a fire release, great fireball technique, Black Zetsu still did not appear. Does he think Obito is difficult to control, and since Nagato has already grown, Obito's death doesn't matter? Is he planning to control Nagato later to use Rinne Rebirth, revive Madara to execute the Eye of the Moon plan, and that's why he didn't come out to save Uchiha Obito? Uchiha General pondered, but he did not lower his guard, fearing that Black Zetsu might launch a surprise attack at any moment. While Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Obito were fighting, the revolution initiated by the Uchiha clan, targeting the corrupt Konoha higher-ups to set things right, was already nearing its end. After Uchiha Fugaku displayed his immense power, many ninja clans joined the Uchiha faction, initiating a purge against Danzo and others who had top-tier popularity. Uchiha Obito's intervention became the final straw that broke the camel's back, causing the remaining ninja clans to switch sides, leaving the Hokage faction completely isolated within Konoha village. The Great Sun Bag was too powerful. Its ability to absorb ninjutsu gave the Uchiha faction an inherent advantage, making them invincible. All attacks from the Hokage faction were absorbed by the Great Sun Bag's gravitational vortex, while the ninjas of the Hokage faction had to endure all attacks from the Uchiha faction head-on. With this ebb and flow, the chakra of the Hokage faction's ninjas, led by Hiruzen Sarutobi, was depleted like a flood, quickly falling into a disadvantage and being cut down one by one. Soon, only a few powerful cage-level combatants remained, still stubbornly resisting. But this was futile. Under the dense ninjutsu attacks, Homura Mitokado and Udatane Kaharu also had their chakra completely exhausted, even their stamina was drained, and they ultimately died suddenly on the battlefield, then were very ungracefully struck by Hyuga Hiyashi's 8 trigrams empty palm, turning into a shower of blood and flesh fragments. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, met an even less dignified end. After consuming most of his chakra in a fierce battle with Uchiha Fugaku, he was jointly restrained by the Inoshika Cho trio with Shadow Paralysis Jutsu and the Yamanaka clan's mental secret techniques, then directly smashed into a pile of minced meat by Akamichi Cho's human bullet tank. It's hard to say if these 3 clan leaders were pledging allegiance to the Uchiha or venting their anger over the 4th Hokage's untimely death and the resulting loss of their interests. Danzo, with an arm full of Sharingan, activated Izanagi as a resurrection shield, allowing him to live a bit longer. But it was also futile. After his 10 minutes of invincibility ended, Uchiha Gen, who had been waiting on the side, instantly confused Danzo with a Genjutsu, Sharingan. Immediately, he plucked out the Mangekyo Sharingan belonging to Shisui from Danzo's eye socket, then calmly dodged Danzo's self-destructing reverse 4-symbol sealing jutsu. Besides creating another large crater in the ruined battlefield, Danzo achieved no other results. At this point, this revolutionary battle was completely over. Ha 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 ha, we won. On the chaotic battlefield, Uchiha Fugaku laughed wildly. Although just one battle had nearly blinded his recently awakened Mangekyo Sharingan, this overexertion of pupil power and chakra was worth it. He fulfilled his duty as a clan leader, protecting his clansmen very well. Of the 33 Tomo Jonin brought to participate in the battle, many were injured, and many had gone blind from using Izanagi in combat. But not a single one died after all. On the battlefield, the ninjas from other clans had complex expressions. Although the Konoha higher-ups led by Hiruzen Sarutobi were dealt with, this internal strife severely damaged Konoha village's overall strength. Not many people on the Uchiha side died, but the Jonin of the Sarutobi, Mitokado, Utatane, and Shimura clans, as well as some Jonin who firmly stood with the Konoha higher-ups, were completely wiped out. 4 cage-level combatants also died. 12 of the Uchiha clan's 3 Tomo Jonin also became one-eyed. Next, everyone would have to purge the ninja clans of the Konoha higher-ups and some ninjas who sided incorrectly, which would lead to the deaths of many more Konoha ninjas. It's no exaggeration to say that Konoha village's military strength was directly halved. If other great nations were to invade next, Konoha village would face another tough battle. However, Uchiha General was not very concerned about this. Once Uchiha Fugaku awakened his eternal Mangekyo, he alone could compensate for all of Konoha's lost combat power, and even elevate Konoha's overall strength to a higher level. To reassure everyone, Uchiha General supported Uchiha Fugaku, who had collapsed from exhaustion after his laughter. Then he calmly stated, "Our clan leader's Mangekyo Sharingan's pupil power has already reached Madara's level. Future enemies can all be left to our clan leader to deal with. Now, everyone, go claim your spoils of war." Everyone agreed with Uchiha Gen's words. The combat power Uchiha Fugaku displayed earlier was too astonishing. Although no one had seen Madara, they knew that Uchiha Fugaku's strength surpassed the 3rd Hokage's level. Since he was willing to step forward and take responsibility, everyone had no more worries. Subsequently, ninjas from various clans, led by Uchiha Jonin, set out. Everyone began to purge the remaining enemies and collect spoils of war within Konoha village. Winning this war against the Konoha higher-ups brought too many benefits. Various high-level ninjutsu and secret techniques, the assets of the 4 great ninja clans, and many vacant high-level positions. Uchiha Gen, representing the Uchiha clan, honored their promise, willing to share the benefits of this victory and the future glory of Konoha with all participating allies. Powerful strength combined with benefits instantly transformed the Uchiha clan, who were originally isolated in Konoha village, into objects of everyone's adoration. It seems he really left. After everything settled, Black Zetsu still did not appear. Uchiha Gen's telekinesis had been continuously spread around the battlefield, with the area around his body being particularly monitored, yet he found no trace of Black Zetsu's actions. It was as if he had never existed. At this moment, Uchiha General finally confirmed that Black Zetsu had left. And in fact, just as Uchiha General had guessed when he killed Obito not long ago. Black Zetsu didn't really care about Uchiha Obito's death, nor did he care much about Uchiha General. Firstly, Nagato had already grown, and the Akatsuki organization's tools for capturing tailed beasts were almost gathered. Next, if the opportunity was right, Black Zetsu could manipulate Nagato to activate the outer path, Samsara of Heavenly Life technique to revive Uchiha Madara, letting him execute the Eye of the Moon plan, and completely revive his mother, Otsutsuki Kagaya. And Obito, that disobedient tool, could die for all he cared. Secondly, Uchiha Fugaku's Mangekyo Sharingan was about to advance to Eternal Mangekyo. If Uchiha Madara's plan to revive Kagaya failed, it didn't matter, Black Zetsu could still find a way to trick Sasuke, the current reincarnation of Indra, into executing Plan 2. At that time, Sasuke, inheriting his father's Eternal Mangekyo, would also have a great chance to awaken the Rinnegan. Black Zetsu would have another opportunity. Black Zetsu felt that he was also doing well. He hadn't fought such a wealthy battle in 1,000 years. In this situation, Uchiha Gen, a crippled Uchiha with one Sharingan blinded, was completely disregarded by Black Zetsu. No matter how well he trained in ninja body techniques and genjutsu, it was just making a big fuss over a minor issue. His strength was limited and not worthy of a grand stage. He was completely not on the same level as his mother, Otsutsuki Kagaya, and far from even Madara's level. While the entire Uchiha clan ninja were dispatched, leading many ninja to cleanse the remaining forces of the Hokage faction within Konoha village, Uchiha Gen, a core figure of the Uchiha, was quite leisurely. He brought Uchiha Fugaku, who had fainted from chakra exhaustion, back to the family shrine, had the family medical ninja who had just finished treating Uchiha revive him, and then began to help Uchiha Fugaku with the eye transplant surgery. To evolve from Mangekyo Sharingan to Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, one needs to fuse the Mangekyo Sharingan ocular power of a blood relative with one's own ocular power. This is to sublimate yin release to its extreme. Only then can one obtain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, which does not go blind and whose ocular power can recover on its own. Under Uchiha Gen's watchful eye, Uchiha Fugaku completed the process of fusing the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan without any disturbance. He extracted all the ocular power from his Mangekyo Sharingan, fusing it back into his brain, and his original Mangekyo Sharingan was completely deprecated. Then he replaced them with Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan, and then the ocular power that had retreated into Uchiha Fugaku's mind began to merge into Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. The ocular power of two pairs of blood relatives, Mangekyo Sharingan fused together without hindrance, beginning to sublimate into the ultimate yin release power. The ultimate yin release will also lead to an increase in physical attributes, chakra capacity and taijutsu will both surge significantly. This entire fusion process will last for 3 days. After 3 days, Uchiha Fugaku will possess the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, reaching the true cage level combat power. Gen-kun, I feel like you're in a very good mood, even happier than your own Sharingan ocular power evolving. Uchiha Fugaku, temporarily blind, said with a smile. His vision, however, would only recover after the eternal eye evolution was complete. At that time, he would be able to activate the full-body Susanoo, possessing the strength to fight an entire great ninja village alone. Saving the family and allowing all clan members to survive would make anyone happy, wouldn't it? Uchiha General said with a smile. Moreover, he truly did not envy Uchiha Fugaku for obtaining the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Not to mention that in the main god space, which has various exchange options, he can find many ways to evolve. Even in the Naruto world, there is more than one way to obtain the eternal eye. For the Mangekyo Sharingan to evolve, besides going through the path of fusing blood relatives, ocular power and sublimating the ultimate yin release, one can also take the path of yin and yang harmony. A reference case is Obito, who has half of Hashirama cells. As long as Uchiha General transforms his physique into a sage body, nourishing the yin release power of his eyes with his own powerful yang release, the Mangekyo Sharingan will not go blind, and its future ocular power can also evolve to the eternal eye, and even higher levels. Yes, this is indeed something to be happy about. Uchiha Fugaku nodded. After dealing with these enemies from the Konoha higher-ups who oppressed the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku's mental exhaustion was completely cured. Even just sitting and staring blankly, unable to see anything, his mood was exceptionally comfortable. Then you should rest well. Next, I have some miscellaneous matters to attend to. Seeing that Uchiha Fugaku had recovered his ability to protect himself, Uchiha General no longer stayed with him. Although Uchiha Fugaku's ocular power was still evolving, he was not someone just anyone could deal with, and he could spend the next 3 days on his own. Uchiha Fugaku nodded. At this moment, Uchiha General turned and walked out of the family shrine. Although the war against the Konoha higher-ups had been won, there were still many things that needed to be resolved. For example, plundering the spoils of war. It was at this time that Uchiha Itachi, who had just recovered from his severe injuries, propped up his ailing body by the Nanga River not far from the shrine and stopped Uchiha General. He kept his eyelids closed to cover his empty eye sockets, but he precisely turned his face towards Uchiha Gen's direction. With a calm voice, different from his past coldness, he earnestly said to Uchiha Gen, "You once said that the moment an Uchiha activates the Mangekyo Sharingan, he has already gone completely mad. What about you? When did you go mad?" This sentence was Uchiha Gen's evaluation of the Mangekyo Sharingan many years ago, when a young Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha General saw records of the Mangekyo Sharingan together. Hearing this, Uchiha General was slightly stunned. He turned to look at the river, and in its reflection, he saw the appearance of his eyes at this moment. One eye was already blind from using the forbidden jutsu Izanami, appearing grayish-white. The other had already evolved from the 3-tomo form, becoming a Mangekyo Sharingan. Unbeknownst to him, Uchiha Gen's Mangekyo Sharingan had already been activated. After a slight perception, Uchiha General knew what his Mangekyo ocular jutsu was. The ocular jutsu of one eye was for increasing combat power, which could be called limit break. By consuming chakra and ocular power, one could greatly enhance one's physical attributes. Strength, speed, defense, vitality, brain processing power, etc., could all be comprehensively boosted. the more chakra and ocular power consumed, the greater the boost. The other ocular jutsu was space solidification. By activating the ocular jutsu, one could solidify the surrounding space-time, binding enemies and preventing them from using space-time ninjutsu, specifically countering space-time Sharingan users like Obito. However, this eye was already blind. Although the ocular jutsu and ocular power were still present, the eye was temporarily in a sealed state and could not be used. It would require returning to the main god space to repair the eye, or evolving the eye into the Rinnegan before it could be reactivated. Without paying too much attention to his newly evolved Sharingan, Uchiha General looked at Uchiha Itachi and said with a smile, "You ask me when I went mad. Probably when I was just born. Anyone who knows that their comrade will kill all their clan members in the future, and no matter how much they try to persuade them, they won't listen. They would probably go mad. Sometimes, I really want to tie up you guys who don't understand human language and beat you up, so you can properly let go of your arrogance and listen." My Mangekyo ocular jutsu reflects this idea. The Mangekyo is the eye that reflects the heart. In the past, when Uchiha General tried to persuade Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Shisui without success, and watched helplessly as they followed their original paths, he was very desperate. But because he didn't have the aptitude to activate the Mangekyo Sharingan, no matter how much he went mad, it was meaningless. Without power, nothing could be done. And now, after the family became safe and the crisis was resolved, this deepest obsession remaining in his heart was manifested in the form of Mangekyo ocular jutsu. Chapter 91. If the method by which Uchiha Shisui, Uchiha Itachi, and Uchiha Fugaku awakened their Mangekyo Sharingan was by first gaining love, then losing it, awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan in the extreme pain of losing someone important. Then Uchiha Gen's method of awakening was the opposite. He experienced extreme despair, watched his clan gradually head towards destruction, and then personally saved his clan from the abyss. Then, in the joy of gaining love, he awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan. Is it better to have sweetness first then bitterness, or bitterness first then sweetness? Uchiha General felt that bitterness first then sweetness was better. Protecting the clan not only allowed Uchiha Gen to awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan, but also resolved a persistent obsession and inner demon that had plagued Uchiha Gen's heart. At this moment, Uchiha Gen's mind was clear. He could feel his mental power surging at a speed perceptible to the naked eye. He recalled his actions over the past period. Before returning to the Naruto world, Uchiha Gen's plan was to first digest the Bodhi heart upon returning, elevate his strength to its limit, and then, with absolute power, safely resolve the Uchiha clan's extermination crisis. However, upon his return, Uchiha Gen's actions became extremely aggressive. He was incredibly impatient, unable to wait even half a minute. Even though Uchiha Fugaku had not awakened his eternal eye, and his own strength had not reached its peak. Once he felt strong enough, even at the cost of losing an eye, he would proactively instigate a conflict between the Uchiha clan and the Konoha higher-ups. It was fortunate that the final outcome was good. Uchiha General ultimately won. This impatience was the obsession and inner demon at work. And now, with the Uchiha clan becoming safe, the obsession and inner demon completely vanished. Uchiha General felt a sense of ease and relaxation from the inside out. If he hadn't yet unlocked the 4th Order Gene Lock, Uchiha General felt he could have directly surpassed 4th Order Initial and reached a level close to 4th Order Intermediate. But the tempering he experienced at this moment was not in vain. At least for Uchiha Gen, it would be smooth sailing before the 4th Order Intermediate Gene Lock. With no further bottlenecks, he would only need sufficient accumulation to upgrade. After finishing discussing his Sharingan, Uchiha General put away the smile on his face. Alright, Uchiha Itachi, give me Shisui's other Mangekyo Sharingan. As a sinner, you are not worthy of wielding such power. If you insist on trying to control me with Koto Amatsukami, then think carefully about your family. Your younger brother, Sasuke, is still waiting for you at home. As soon as Uchiha Itachi came to him, he could roughly guess what he wanted to do. It was nothing more than using Koto Amatsukami to control him, to make him, who was destined to leave the village, stay and protect Konoha, whose strength had significantly decreased at this moment. Uchiha Itachi felt that if he could achieve his goal, even sacrificing his own life for it would be fine. And Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan was also the reason Uchiha General was willing to speak with him. Otherwise, Uchiha Gen, who was already completely disappointed with Uchiha Itachi, would not have said another word to him. In the past, Uchiha General had already said all the good and bad words. He told Uchiha Itachi to be virtuous when poor, and benefit the world when successful, to first cultivate oneself, manage one's family, and then govern the country and bring peace to the world. He told Uchiha Shisui to distinguish between primary and secondary contradictions, and seek peace through struggle, then peace will exist. Did these two even listen to half a word? At this moment, Uchiha General felt that saying one more word was a waste of time. 1. 3. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Itachi fell silent. He hadn't expected that the other party knew this information as well. At this moment, his condition was already poor, and the injuries from losing his Mangekyo Sharingan had not fully recovered. Without the advantage of information, it was even less possible to achieve his initial goal. Thinking of his younger brother at home, and thinking that his father's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was already powerful enough. While controlling Uchiha General with Koto Amatsukami was a safeguard for protecting the village, it was not an essential matter. Uchiha Itachi sighed, struggled in his heart for a moment, and ultimately gave up on using Koto Amatsukami. He formed hand signs and summoned a crow. The eyes of this crow were the transplanted Mangekyo Sharingan belonging to Shisui, and the Koto Amatsukami Genjutsu resided within them. The Koto Amatsukami that Uchiha General obtained from Danzo earlier was a short-term control that could be broken free from, whereas the one Itachi possessed could permanently alter a person's will and would even be effective on Mangekyo Sharingan ninja. This could be seen from how the Edo Tensei Uchiha Itachi was controlled by Koto Amatsukami during the original Fourth Great Ninja War. Therefore, Uchiha General was extremely wary at this moment, with wind release chakra entanglement around his body, instantly moving hundreds of meters away, leaving the range of Koto Amatsukami's effect. Next, if Uchiha Itachi showed any sign of activating his visual jutsu, he would immediately use telekinesis to blast him to death. Fortunately, Uchiha Itachi had not completely lost his mind. He sighed, gave up control of the crow, and allowed Uchiha Gen to remotely extract the Koto Amatsukami Mangekyo Sharingan with telekinesis. Thus, Uchiha General had gathered a pair of Koto Amatsukami Mangekyo Sharingan. If his blood relation to Shisui wasn't too distant, Uchiha General could actually use this pair of Mangekyo to upgrade his eternal eye. From now on, behave yourself. Stay and sweep the shrine. As a sinner, you are not allowed to go out, otherwise, I will kill Sasuke. He preserved Shisui's Sharingan in solution and put it away. He used Uchiha Itachi to control Uchiha Fugaku, and Uchiha Sasuke to control Uchiha Itachi. People with family are full of weaknesses. As he spoke, Uchiha General let out a cold snort, directly lifted a leg, and kicked him into the Nanga River. He had wanted to do this for a long time, 10 years had passed, and now he finally got his wish. Uchiha Itachi, dragging his ailing body, climbed out of the water, soaked to the bone. He watched Uchiha Gen's retreating back, couldn't help but clench his fists, feeling humiliated. But as soon as he thought about how he had also treated Uchiha General with such arrogance in the past, ignoring his advice and feelings, leading the clan towards the abyss, he could only let out a long sigh, somewhat powerlessly loosening his clenched fists. Everything was merely his own doing. For Sasuke, for the peace of the village, he would endure. If this world connects to the parallel world of Boruto, when adult Sasuke comes in 5 years, what will you think then? I wonder if you'll still have the courage to live then. Uchiha Gen, walking towards the Hokage building, turned his head to look at Uchiha Itachi, who was sitting dejectedly on the riverbank, thinking maliciously to himself. Leaving the Uchiha clan territory, ruined battlefields, devastated by ninjutsu, were visible everywhere. All buildings, forests, etc., within a radius of several kilometers around here, had basically turned to ash in the battle a few hours ago. However, because the Uchiha clan territory was already in a remote location, no ordinary people were harmed by this fierce battle. Soon, Uchiha General passed through the battlefield and arrived at Konoha's central commercial street, which had gradually restored basic order. After buying several bowls of ramen at Ichiraku Ramen, Uchiha General walked towards the Hokage building in the center of Konoha village. Soon, outside the secret room of the Hokage building, Uchiha General saw Kakashi and Might Guy. Naruto, looking utterly bewildered, was also brought here. They were here not only to prevent Konoha's secret ninjutsu from being stolen and lost by spies amidst the chaos and to protect the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, but also to avoid the bloody purge currently happening within Konoha village. Although they did not firmly stand with the Konoha higher-ups, and even contributed to the previous battle to eliminate the corrupt Konoha higher-ups. However, among the Hokage-aligned ninja who were to be purged next, there were, after all, some people they knew. They did not want to save these corrupt individuals who enjoyed the protection of darkness. All they could do was turn a blind eye. Kakashi-senpai, Might Guy-senpai, and Naruto. Hungry. This is Ichiraku ramen I just bought. Uchiha General smiled, and facing their complex gazes, he put down the Ichiraku ramen takeout box in his hand and greeted them. As one of the few Uchiha in the village who didn't work in the police force, he also knew Kakashi and Might Guy. Although they weren't particularly close, they were at least on nodding terms. Perhaps out of respect for Obito, his former teammate and classmate, Kakashi had proactively taught Uchiha General fire-release chakra nature transformation, and Might Guy had also guided Uchiha Gen in the unripe leaf-style taijutsu. Ramen. Thank you, Gen Gurgur. Naruto, who had been brought here from the Ninja Academy looking utterly confused and knowing nothing, was already hungry. He cheered and opened the packaging box, starting to devour it. Eat slowly, I bought a lot, and there's more if it's not enough. Uchiha General said with a smile. Compared to Kakashi and Might Guy, who were merely nodding acquaintances, Uchiha Gen and Naruto were much more familiar. As a member of the Uchiha clan, the former Uchiha General was not allowed by the third Hokage to interact with Uzumaki Naruto, who was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. However, complete separation was impossible. Sometimes Uchiha Gen would encounter Naruto on the road, and sometimes when Uchiha Itachi was busy with Anbu missions and couldn't come home, Uchiha Makoto would ask Uchiha Gen to pick up Sasuke. Naruto, who was very good at reading expressions, realized at first glance that Uchiha General was one of the few people in the village who didn't have prejudice against him. So, he proactively approached Uchiha General. Over time, they got to know each other, and their relationship even became quite good. Beside them, Kakashi and Might Guy felt a sense of relief seeing Uchiha General treat Naruto so kindly. They had previously sided with the Uchiha to deal with the corrupt and dark third Hokage and other Konoha higher-ups, but they were also very afraid that the newly appointed Uchiha would be the same. Now, facts proved that no matter what other Uchiha were like, at least Uchiha Gen, as a high-ranking Uchiha, was a normal person. After today, the conspiracy of the third Hokage and others to secretly murder the fourth Hokage will be brought to light. From now on, Kakashi-senpai, as the fourth's disciple, you will be Naruto's guardian. Teach him how to conduct himself and how to train. The fourth Hokage's child can no longer live the life he did before. Uchiha General said. These three individuals before him were all quite important. One a ninjutsu cage level, one a taijutsu cage level, and one a Kyuubi Jinchuriki and protagonist. Winning them over to serve the village was essential for the Uchiha's upcoming governance. Okay. Upon hearing this, a smile unconsciously appeared in Kakashi's gloomy eyes. Although he wore a mask and his face was unclear, Uchiha General knew he was smiling. His teacher's child would receive the treatment a hero's child deserved, which would certainly be 1,000 times better than his past life. Might Guy, seeing Kakashi's long-lost smile, was also happy for him. Although Konoha had withered in an internal strife, it had also shed its past corruption and shackles, and would surely usher in a more beautiful rebirth in the future. Kakashi-senpai, shall we talk? Soon, after Naruto ate his fill, he fell into a deep sleep. Uchiha General invited Kakashi to talk outside. Since the double Koto Amatsukami had been obtained, the next step was naturally to achieve the full collection of double Kamui. Perhaps because of Uchiha Gen's promise regarding Naruto's treatment, Kakashi did not hesitate and nodded in agreement. Kakashi-senpai, I want to reclaim your Sharingan on behalf of the Uchiha clan. As compensation, I will transplant a new eye for you. Uchiha General said directly. After a pause, Uchiha General continued. Kakashi-senpai, you should have experienced firsthand the disadvantages of having the Sharingan in your possession. The inability to deactivate the Sharingan forces you to constantly refine a large amount of chakra to sustain it, making you lack stamina and unable to fight for long. This not only affects your combat power but also hinders your growth in strength. As expected, Kakashi refused. He touched his eye socket and sighed, this is Obito's eye. I want to keep it, to see the changes in this ninja world through his eye. Although this Sharingan brought him considerable combat power improvement, the side effects were even greater. Kakashi without the Sharingan would still be a strong individual capable of becoming Hokage in the future, but Kakashi with the Sharingan could only be a kidney deficiency ninja. Uchiha General was not surprised, this was within expectations. He said, "Do you know who that mysterious masked man I killed on the battlefield earlier was?" Upon hearing this, Kakashi's expression suddenly changed. He thought of a very ominous possibility. Uchiha General did not keep him in suspense and directly revealed the answer. "You guessed it right, it was Obito. He didn't die on the Third Great Ninja War battlefield because he activated some of the Mangekyo Sharingan's characteristics, allowing rocks to pass through his phased body. However, on his way back to Konoha after recovering from his injuries, he was ambushed by Danzo. After that, he was controlled and brainwashed by Root for wood release experiments. Although he truly awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan and mastered wood release, he went completely insane, even helping the third Hokage and others create the nine-tailed fox's attack. If this Sharingan remains with you, I worry it might be exploited by ill-intentioned individuals. If they use this eye to Edo Tensei Obito, you should be able to imagine the extent of the harm caused. Besides that, I also learned a top-secret intelligence. There is an organization in the ninja world called Akatsuki that is secretly planning to collect all nine-tailed beasts, intending to combine them into a war weapon called the Ten Tails, thereby dominating the entire world. They expect to truly launch this plan within the next 5 to 10 years. Kakashi-senpai, you should know that a Jinchuriki dies if the tailed beast inside them is extracted. As Naruto's guardian, whether to protect Naruto or the village's Jinchuriki, you must have greater strength. Therefore, this Sharingan must be sealed, no matter from which perspective. Uchiha Gen's words flashed rapidly through Kakashi's mind, and he was instantly drenched in sweat. The old Uchiha Obito was such a bright and kind person, he was always willing to help others, friendly, and wholeheartedly good to him as a teammate. But if that orange-masked man who caused the nine-tailed incident was him, look at the beastly things he had done. He helped the third Hokage and others in their coup, orchestrated the nine-tailed incident, and caused the deaths of his master and master's wife. He also pinned the blame on the Uchiha clan, which ultimately became the fuse for the recent Konoha internal strife, causing Konoha to lose half of its military strength. No wonder Uchiha General was so decisive on the battlefield before. Not only did he blow up the head of the mastermind behind the nine-tailed incident, but he also directly pulverized him. If the fact that Uchiha Obito was the mastermind behind the nine-tailed incident were to be exposed, the Uchiha clan would probably truly become the mastermind behind the nine-tailed incident. If the Uchiha clan had failed in this coup, not only would Uchiha Obito's title as a Konoha hero be gone, but he and Naruto would also not fare well. The relatives of a criminal would surely be isolated by everyone, making it impossible for them to live. At this moment, Kakashi suddenly understood the purpose of Uchiha Gen's words. Now that the Uchiha had won, it didn't matter whether Uchiha Obito's matter would be exposed, but for him, it was different. If he didn't hand over the Sharingan, then Uchiha Gen's side would not rule out the possibility of exposing Uchiha Obito. Danzo's fault, it must be Danzo's fault. If he hadn't corrupted Obito, how else would a once bright and kind young man have become like this today? The fact that the orange-masked man is Obito must not be exposed. Otherwise, everything Kakashi cherished would be ruined. Thinking again of the threat from the Akatsuki organization outside, although he didn't know if it was true, Uchiha General had no need to lie to him. This instantly filled Kakashi's heart with a sense of crisis. I understand, I will train hard from now on. As he spoke, Kakashi didn't hesitate. He directly raised his hand and gouged out the Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan from his eye socket. Uchiha General took the Kamui Sharingan and put it away. Then, he placed a 3-pure talisman, worth 500 reward points, on Kakashi's body. Such a talisman could even heal severed limbs, let alone just losing a normal eye. A vibrant clear light permeated Kakashi's body, the blood overflowing from his eye stopped, and his eye began to regenerate. Even the kidney deficiency caused by the burden of the Sharingan for many years was being repaired by the power of the 3-pure talisman at this moment, and his chakra began to surge, increase, and burst. In a very short time, Kakashi felt as if a 1,000-pound burden had been lifted, and he felt incredibly light all over. Ah, a feeling of chakra more abundant than ever before. Perceiving his current state, Kakashi couldn't help but exclaim. After losing a Mangekyo Sharingan that couldn't be turned off, Kakashi instantly felt his usable chakra increase many times over. Next, Senior Kakashi, you can research a Chidori that doesn't require the strong dynamic vision of the Sharingan to control. This isn't difficult for you. Later, you can also practice the 8 gates formation more. If you have time, study the Flying Thunder God technique and Sealing Jutsu more. All of these can further enhance your combat power. Also, Sage Mode, you should also try to learn it at Mount Myoboku. What if you succeed? At this moment, Uchiha General reminded him. Ninja generally reach their first peak around the age of 18 when they mature. Their strength will initially stabilize at this stage, reaching about 70 to 80% of their peak strength in their lifetime. Kakashi, who is 22 this year, has already reached the cage-level combat standard, not much different from his strength at the beginning of the Hokage plot 5 years later. However, because he was relatively dispirited, he probably struggled even against an elite Jonin like Zabuza. He completely lacked the relaxed feeling of a cage-level ninja fighting an elite Jonin, like a father fighting his son. But now that he has lost his Sharingan, changed his mindset, and trained hard, his strength should still improve significantly. Reaching strong cage level, or peak cage level strength comparable to the third Hokage, should not be a problem in the future. As for whether he can master Flying Thunder God and Sage Mode, that remains a big question mark. Practicing Flying Thunder God requires extremely strong sensory abilities, and practicing Sage Mode requires a very large amount of chakra. Kakashi doesn't seem to be very prominent in either of these. It can only be said that Uchiha General maintains expectations for him. I will work hard. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Their conversation ended here. Kakashi left with Naruto and Might Guy, while Uchiha General began reading in the Hokage building's secret jutsu room. 8 Gates Formation, Flying Thunder God Technique, Edo Tensai, Spirit Transformation Jutsu, Bringer of Darkness Technique, Sealing Jutsu, Water Release, Water Severing Wave, Water Release, Hard Vortex Water Blade, Wood Release. All sorts of jutsu that Uchiha General had coveted for a long time were now obtained by Uchiha General. No one could stop him, allowing him to learn them at will. After roughly looking through all the secret jutsu, Uchiha General finally focused his attention on the 8 Gates Formation. His future fighting style would still be primarily taijutsu. The 8 Gates Formation could be effectively integrated into his combat system, helping him further improve his strength. Moreover, with Might Guy, a senior who had practiced the 8 Gates Formation for many years, he could consult him, which rapidly increased Uchiha Gen's understanding of the 8 Gates Formation. And while Uchiha General was immersed in the ocean of secret jutsu, the search and seizure teams led by the Uchiha Jonin also had many gains. In addition to various high-level release jutsu collected by Sarutobi and the 3 Elder Council families, Root also unearthed a large amount of valuable Hashirama cells research data and Hashirama cells samples. Although these things could not be put into use temporarily, all Uchiha ninja knew that they could help their clan greatly improve their combat power in the future. Therefore, these items were secretly collected and sealed, under the guise of being destroyed on the surface. Besides keeping a backup within the clan, the rest were given to Uchiha General. In this process of acquisition and settlement, 3 days passed quickly. Within 3 days, all remaining personnel of the Konoha higher-ups Hokage faction were purged. All high-value spoils of war had also been fully inventoried. Next was the allocation of some financial assets and Konoha higher-ups positions, which would require a considerable amount of haggling to satisfy everyone. It was at this time that Kumogakure of the Land of Lightning, which had already received news of Konoha's internal strife, finally completed its war preparations. Under the leadership of the 4th Raikage, numerous Kumogakure ninja began to launch a large-scale attack towards Konoha village in the Land of Fire. On the border of the Land of Fire, 4th Raikage had gathered with the 8 Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee, the 2 Tails Jinchuriki Niyugido, 2 great generals, and numerous hidden cloud village ninja forces. Over 5,000 ninja were densely packed, a sight that instantly struck fear into one's heart. This time, aside from the necessary forces guarding the village, all other mid to high-end combat power had been brought out by 4th Raikage in one go. Raikage-sama, Konoha seems to have no defenses at all here. Could it be that they've recalled all their border forces back to the village due to internal strife? A perception ninja reported the news. Who cares? According to reliable sources, Konoha village lost at least half of its military strength in this internal conflict. Konoha's Kyubi Jinchuriki is just a child. We'll seize this opportunity to directly attack and destroy Konoha. By then, Konoha's various secret techniques, bloodline limits, and the Nine-Tailed will all be ours. Our Hidden Cloud Village's military strength will be further enhanced, and we'll truly become the strongest ninja village in the ninja world. Fourth Raikage, however, was unconcerned and spoke with a serious expression. Then, with a wave of his hand, he ordered all the ninja forces to advance directly towards Konoha. If they went too slowly, that old man Onoki from Iwagakure in the Land of Earth might take advantage. Immediately, the Hidden Cloud Ninja began to move out. As the Uchiha clan completely ignoring this, not far from the Hidden Cloud Ninja army, Jiraiya muttered to himself, hidden in the shadows. He had been out of contact in the ninja world, enjoying himself immensely. But then he suddenly received urgent intelligence from Mount Myoboku. Konoha was in internal conflict, and the Uchiha clan had wiped out the Konoha higher-ups, including the third Hokage. Before he could mourn his deceased teacher, the third Hokage, what immediately arrived at the battlefield was the Hidden Cloud Village Ninja Allied forces led by 4th Raikage. Although Jiraiya didn't care much about the death of his corrupt and dark teacher, nor did he care about the Uchiha clan, whom he had no acquaintance with, it didn't matter who was annihilated, he cared deeply about Konoha, his birthplace. So, upon receiving the intelligence, Jiraiya immediately rushed to the Land of Fire border. He intended to join the battle, setting aside his vendetta with the Uchiha clan, who had killed his teacher, and for them to join forces to protect Konoha. Coincidentally, Tsunade, on the other side, also received the intelligence and converged at Konoha's border. At this moment, her back no longer ached, her legs no longer hurt, and her hemophobia was gone. She planned to use her influence to see if she could persuade 4th Raikage, who owed her a favor, to retreat. Or, if she couldn't persuade him, she would join the battle and help the Konoha army protect Konoha. However, she didn't expect to meet her old classmate Jiraiya here. The two looked at each other in silence, tacitly avoiding discussion of the Konoha higher-ups who had been completely wiped out. They had been outside for so many years precisely because they couldn't stand these corrupt and dark Konoha higher-ups, ultimately choosing to avoid what displeased them. While they had some reservations about the Uchiha becoming the higher-ups, they generally maintained an optimistic attitude, at least the Uchiha's combat power was very strong. Perhaps, under the Uchiha clan's leadership, Konoha could shine with new brilliance. So, they didn't have any particular emotional fluctuations regarding the current situation in Konoha. What surprised the two of them was that the Uchiha clan showed no intention of resisting the Hidden Cloud army. They had even withdrawn the ninja who were originally patrolling near the border. Can the two of us stop the Hidden Cloud army? Tsunade looked at the dense array of ninja in the distance, speaking with a hint of self-doubt. She was confident that if she and Jiraiya teamed up, even if they couldn't win, they could find a way to escape. But to achieve the strategic goal of intercepting the Hidden Cloud army and protecting Konoha, that would be very difficult. Let's try. First, gather intelligence. When the Hidden Cloud army and Konoha ninja meet, we'll use that opportunity to strike. The Uchiha ninja don't guard the Land of Fire border, but they must guard Konoha village, right? Jiraiya looked at the Hidden Cloud army, speaking with a serious expression. Although both of them were cage-level powerhouses, they weren't strong enough to contend with the entire Hidden Cloud army. Leveraging the power of the Konoha ninja was indispensable. The two followed the Hidden Cloud army all the way into the depths of the Land of Fire border, to Kikyo Pass, one of Konoha's war fortresses. Then, a scene that left them both dumbfounded unfolded. On the city walls of Kikyo Pass, the Uchiha clan ninja-led 3,000 allied ninja, gathered there. Uchiha General looked at the approaching Hidden Cloud Village ninja army and spoke calmly, "Clan leader, I'll take the left, you take the right. The others will capture prisoners." "No problem, right." Uchiha Fugaku, who had already advanced to the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, nodded calmly and agreed, "All right, Gen-kun, let's do it." Once the two had agreed, the other clan leaders surrounding them could only nod in assent. Then, Uchiha Fugaku took a step forward, transforming into a purple dog. Solid purple chakra began to emanate from his body, coalescing into a towering warrior god. First bones, then flesh and blood, followed by armor and weapons. Under the shocked gaze of everyone, a terrifying giant over 100 meters tall stood between heaven and earth, finally even growing wings. The complete Susanoo, a unique ability of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. As the giant took shape, an incredibly terrifying aura permeated the world. The purple giant drew its massive samurai sword and flew at extreme speed above the hidden Cloud Village army, directly slashing towards the densest concentration of ninja in the center of the army. Rumble. The earth shook, mountains and land were cleaved apart at this moment. Without any fancy moves, terrifying power spread, causing immense casualties with a single strike. Even though the hidden cloud ninja tried their best to dodge, over 100 ninja died instantly. And this was just the beginning. As the purple giant swung its sword repeatedly, sword slashes that could cleave mountains and break peaks crisscrossed the battlefield. Despite the hidden Cloud Village army desperately dodging, parrying, and resisting, they were still trampled like ants. Within a very short time, 300 to 400 people had already died. At this moment, two other terrifying chakra presences began to emanate within the battlefield. The power of the 8 Tails Jinchuriki and the 2 Tails Jinchuriki began to spread. Both were perfect Jinchuriki who could communicate with their tailed beasts. At this moment, they also transformed into mountain-like giant beasts, intending to jointly block the purple giant. While Uchiha Fugaku transformed into the purple dog, Uchiha General also transformed into the yellow ape and made his move. He needed to let the world know his power, so that even after he returned to the main god space, he could still deter the petty. For Uchiha Gen, the Naruto world was not just a training ground for getting stronger, but also his important logistical base. He pulled out a gecko lamp and shone it on himself, transforming into a great ape Saiyan, then activated his Susanoo. Although he was currently blind in one eye, with so many Mangekyo Sharingan to reference, and Uchiha Fugaku as a living reference, activating Susanoo was not difficult. He had learned it in his spare time over the past few days. Armored Susanoo. Golden chakra permeated around Uchiha Gen's body, and the Susanoo armor enveloped him. Coupled with the Great Ape Saiyan's tenfold battle power amplification, his strength reached an extremely terrifying level in that instant. And that was not the end. Second stage Gene Lock and Wind Release Chakra mode were also activated at this time. Uchiha General also activated his Mangekyo Dojutsu, Limit Break, which could amplify his power. In an instant, Gen transformed into Limit General. Under the enhancement of second stage Gene Lock and the Limit Break Dojutsu, the Great Ape Saiyan, clad in golden armor, further swelled its muscles, and terrifying gales wrapped around its body. Uchiha Gen's chakra was originally 50 units, but after strengthening his A-rank telekinesis, it had already exceeded 100 units. Now, with the Mangekyo Sharingan activated, the medicinal power of Bodhi Heart was further digested, causing Uchiha Gen's chakra to surge even more. Currently, Uchiha Gen's chakra reserves had reached over 200 units. At this moment, the vast power represented by these 200 units of chakra was being fully unleashed by Uchiha General. At this point, Uchiha Gen's power reached an extremely terrifying degree, undoubtedly achieving cage-level combat strength. And even at this stage, he was considered a strong individual. Although his transformed yellow ape was only 20 meters tall, not as tall as a 100-meter complete Susanoo, its aura was even more formidable. As Uchiha Fugaku charged towards the hidden Cloud Village ninja army, Uchiha General also made his move simultaneously. He leapt, crossing a vast distance with a blur, and appeared amidst the Kumogakur ninja army. As his feet landed, the ground within several hundred meters instantly collapsed, smoke and dust permeated, and spiderweb-like cracks spread wildly outwards, immediately killing a large number of hidden Cloud Village ninja. Then, Uchiha General struck out with a punch. In front of his fist, a large area of air was exploded by the immense force, compressing into terrifying milky white airwaves that surged out. Instantly, all the plants, trees, rocks, hills, and ninja within a 300-meter radius were instantly crushed into a sky full of blood mist and dust. In a single moment, a large number of ninja had already died. Adding Uchiha Fugaku's assault on the other side, in this brief exchange, the hidden Cloud Village ninja army had already been reduced by 1/8. At this moment, the high-level combatants of Hidden Cloud Village finally realized what was happening and began to organize a counterattack after surviving the first wave of attacks. Fourth Raikage A loudly declared, "Killer B, you and Yugito first stop this purple giant. Everyone else retreat. Then jointly cast large-scale army ninjutsu to restrict its movement, and then try to break its defense with a tailed beast ball. Another yellow ape has appeared over there, I'll go stop him." The two Jinchuriki accepted the order and began to transform. Eight Tails Gyuki was a huge light purple-skinned, eight-legged, ox-headed octopus, while Two Tails Matabi was a large cat burning with blue flames. The two-tailed beasts appeared, intending to confront the purple giant. But in front of the towering purple giant, the two mountain-sized tailed beasts were like wild dogs standing next to a human. Uchiha Fugaku manipulated his Susanoo, delivering two powerful punches that instantly displayed an unmatched colossal strength, knocking out 8 tails Gyuki and 2 tails Matabi. Then, with a glare from his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, he immediately controlled the two Jinchuriki with Genjutsu. After that, even the two-tailed beasts, knocked out and retracted into their Jinchuriki, were also controlled by Uchiha Fugaku with supplementary Genjutsu. On the other side, 4th Raikage, who was intercepting Uchiha Gen, was enveloped in terrifying lightning, unleashing his strongest form, activating his strongest lightning release armor. In this state, he was undoubtedly a strong individual among cage-level ninja, with astonishing strength and speed. Facing Uchiha Gen's transformed yellow ape, 4th Raikage leapt up. In midair, he made a hand blade, carrying terrifying lightning, and struck towards Uchiha General. Known for his speed and strength, he was confident that he could send this mountain-like yellow ape flying with a single punch. However, what greeted him was only Uchiha Gen's indifferent gaze. He raised his hand, clenching his fist with speed beyond human imagination. Then, he slammed a heavy punch onto the charging 4th Raikage. There were no special techniques in the entire process, only pure brute force. At the same time, his sole remaining Mangekyo Sharingan glared, and a dojutsu was unleashed. Boom! Colossal forces collided, and terrifying power permeated the air, transforming into a shockwave that cut and shattered everything around. In that instant, Uchiha Gen's hand was numbed by the electricity. However, the lightning release armor wrapped around 4th Raikage instantly broke through its defense and extinguished, sending 4th Raikage, famous for his lightning release ninjutsu, plummeting to the ground like a cannonball. Rumble! The ground vibrated, and a huge human-shaped crater was created by 4th Raikage's impact. His internal organs were shaken, and he opened his mouth, blood overflowing from the corners of his lips as if it were worthless. However, 4th Raikage had no intention of giving up the fight. Although he was severely injured by a single blow, almost passing out directly, if he did not continue to act, his subordinates would suffer casualties at an even faster rate. But his struggle was futile. Just as 4th Raikage was about to get up, he felt a sharp pain in his head. In a daze, his mind was pierced by 2 huge steel nails. Then, he tilted his head and directly collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Without 4th Raikage and the 2 Jinchuriki, the remaining Kumogakur ninja allied forces were even more vulnerable. Under the combined efforts of Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Fugaku, they were dying at a high rate of hundreds per second. On the battlefield, giant fists and blade auras crisscrossed, and the air and ground of the entire battlefield boiled, with countless smoke and dust shockwaves permeating. Subsequently, these hidden Cloud Village ninja, in order to survive, surrendered as expected. Just as agreed upon from the start, Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Fugaku worked together to crush the Kumogakur army, while the other Konoha ninja began the work of accepting prisoners. Konoha Village in the Land of Fire and Hidden Cloud Village in the Land of Lightning. The war between the two great ninja world nations began and ended just as quickly. The entire process can be summarized as, Kumogakur thought it was capable, Kumogakur attacked Konoha Village, and Kumogakur was instantly defeated. Although the 5,000 ninja army surrendered quickly, nearly half of them still died. However, it also completed a wave of optimization of Kumogakur's ninja structure. The remaining ninja, whether by luck or strength, were undoubtedly elites, having survived the attacks of 2 cage-level combatants. On the walls of Kikyo Castle, many Konoha ninja were dumbfounded at this moment. Although they had already witnessed the strength of the Uchiha clan during the previous internal strife, the power displayed by Uchiha Gen and Fugaku at this moment had reached an even higher level in a short period. This made the many ninja clans, who had already initially recognized the Uchiha, even more convinced and compliant, with no one having any thought of opposing the Uchiha's ascension to the position of Hokage. At the edge of the battlefield, Tsunade and Jiraiya, who were observing the battle, were both dumbfounded. Tsunade watched the Konoha ninja, led by the barrier team, begin to take in the Kumogakur prisoners in the battlefield, and couldn't help but pinch Jiraiya beside her fiercely. "What are you doing?" Jiraiya cried out in pain. "It hurts, so it's not a dream. Clan leader Fugaku and this Uchiha kid are already so powerful just after awakening their Mangekyo Sharingan. How strong was Uchiha Madara, who could fight against Great Grandpa back then?" Tsunade whispered in shock. I don't think it's that unsolvable. Just then, a cold voice sounded beside the two of them. Orochimaru, when did you get here? What are you doing? Jiraiya asked in surprise. For years, he had been tracking Orochimaru, wanting to bring him back to Konoha. Some time ago, he received intelligence that the other party had joined an organization composed entirely of rogue ninja called Akatsuki. In his original plan, he intended to continue tracking Orochimaru's whereabouts after resolving the crisis in Konoha, but he didn't expect him to appear beside him voluntarily. I arrived around the same time as you. As for what I'm doing here, of course, it's to avenge my sensei. Orochimaru's sinister gaze swept over the two familiar faces as he laughed coldly. He was also extremely displeased with his corrupt and aging sensei in Danzo, and had witnessed the darkness of Konoha extensively. One could even say he was part of Konoha's darkness. Because of this, Orochimaru felt no sorrow over the deaths of his sensei and the Konoha Elder Council. He even thought it was a good riddance. Only after their deaths could Konoha have a brighter future. However, Orochimaru believed that even if his sensei had to die, he should die by his own hands, which would be the best outcome. Therefore, he appeared here, intending to avenge his sensei, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Of course, it was also because Orochimaru had recently improved and mastered a more complete and powerful Edo Tensei, so he planned to experiment with Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Fugaku, and also wanted to take over the body of an Uchiha ninja. He was also very envious of the world-destroying power displayed on the battlefield just now. Just then, Uchiha Gen, who had just finished the battle, released his transformation and arrived at the small hill where the three were located. Since the Konoha Sannin were willing to set aside their past grievances and return to support Konoha when it was in danger, it meant there was room for cooperation between them. Therefore, Uchiha General decided to try and see if he could persuade the Sannin to return to the village and serve. Gen-kun, let's become one. At this moment, before Uchiha General could say anything, Orochimaru sneered, formed a hand seal, and slammed his hand onto the ground. Edo Tensei. Immediately, dust filled the air. 4 coffins emerged. First Hokage Senju Hashirama, second Hokage Senju Tobirama, third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, and fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze. The 4 top powerhouses were summoned. As soon as the 4 Hokage appeared, they launched an extremely fierce attack on Uchiha General. Senju Tobirama and Minato Namikaze used the Flying Thunder God technique, instantly teleporting beside Uchiha Gen, and then unleashed the mutual exploding tag technique, immediately breaking through Uchiha Gen's Susanoo. At the same time, Senju Hashirama's wood release and Hiruzen Sarutobi's Swamp of the Underworld also attacked Uchiha General. These two binding ninjutsu trapped Uchiha Gen, who was caught off guard and whose Susanoo defense was shattered, in place. Then, Orochimaru laughed maniacally, his head transforming into a flying head demon, and bit down on Uchiha Gen's neck. After implanting a cursed seal on him, Orochimaru directly activated the 8-headed serpent to complete the takeover of Uchiha Gen, gaining control of the terrifying power that could instantly kill the Kumogakure ninja army. Subsequently, Uchiha Fugaku was also defeated by Orochimaru, using Uchiha Gen's power, and even the mysterious pain was no exception. The power of the Rinnegan, the power of wood release, and the power of the Uchiha were all integrated into Orochimaru, granting him true immortality. After this, Orochimaru became the 5th Hokage, leading Konoha village to become the true greatest village in the ninja world, reaching the pinnacle of his life. Ha ha ha. Having achieved such accomplishments, even the usually aloof Orochimaru couldn't help but burst into maniacal laughter. In reality, Uchiha General glanced at Orochimaru, which caused him, who was preparing to form hand seals to use Edo Tensei, to freeze in place. Orochimaru, who was weak against genjutsu, couldn't even defeat Uchiha Itachi, let alone face Uchiha Gen, whose ocular power was stronger than Uchiha Itachi's. Defeating him was just a matter of a glance. After doing all this, Uchiha General then smiled and said, Tsunade Senpai, Jiraiya Senpai, has Orochimaru Senpai always been this brave? Beside him, Jiraiya awkwardly said, he might have studied forbidden ninjutsu for so long that his brain got messed up. As he spoke, he deftly stepped forward and directly tied up Orochimaru, who was frozen in place by the genjutsu, and then added a sealing jutsu to prevent him from molding chakra. Although his classmate was defeated by a junior, which was extremely undignified, being able to capture him and bring him back to Konoha was still a good outcome. Kid, although your instigation of internal strife wasn't a good thing, since you've now taken power, led Konoha well. That's it, I'm leaving. Tsunade was also very embarrassed, and as a senju, she instinctively disliked the Uchiha. So, she decided to leave directly. Anyway, Konoha's strength was very strong now and didn't need her help, and she didn't want to avenge her sensei, so she simply continued her previous habit of traveling abroad. Bang! Just then, a heavy object fell, kicking up dust. Tsunade, who had just been about to turn and leave, saw a perfectly square golden block smash down in front of her. Quote? Tsunade's attention was instantly drawn to the massive gold block, and her eyes couldn't help but widen. It wasn't hard to tell that this was a standard 1 cubic meter block of gold. Its purity was extremely high, and its weight was approximately 19.32 tons. According to the current Ninja World gold market price of 1,500 ryo per gram, this 1 cubic meter of gold was worth over 20 billion ryo. Even Tsunade, who had been wealthy since childhood and frequently spent lavishly in casinos, had never seen so much money at once in her life. Is this for me? Tsunade stiffly turned her head, gazing at Uchiha Gen, who stood not far away, her beautiful face and wide eyes filled with desire. Due to her years of gambling, with losses but no wins, not only was she heavily in debt, but her daily life was also very tight. If she had such a large sum of money, she could not only clear her debts at once but also gamble freely for a long time in the future. If you are willing to return to Konoha to serve as the hospital director, train more medical ninja for the village, and ensure that every ninja squad has a medical ninja, then this money will be the funding. If it's not enough, there will be further allocations until the goal is achieved. Uchiha General spoke with a smile, hitting Tsunade's pain point directly. Konoha's strength was currently very high, with an Eternal Eye Fugaku overseeing it, ensuring the village and the clan would be safe for a long time. However, he was only one person and could not be everywhere at once. The future Akatsuki organization and the threat of invasion from other ninja villages were not small. Otsutsuki Ashiki and Black Zetsu were also hidden in the shadows, and on the moon were the descendants of Otsutsuki Hagoromo and the Tenseigan. These things were all significant threats. In this situation, further increasing the power of Konoha and the Uchiha clan was an inevitable matter. Uchiha General did not want his clan to be destroyed for other reasons after he had so painstakingly resolved the Extinction Night. Moreover, he also needed to prevent Uchiha Fugaku from impulsively seeking death by unearthing those ancient mummies sealed throughout the ninja world, so establishing some checks and balances for him was essential. Even if it couldn't fully balance him, there needed to be the ability to advise him at critical moments. When are we returning to Konoha? Tsunade, who had just been about to leave, immediately changed her mind. There was only one thing Tsunade wanted to do most in her life: popularize medical ninja within Konoha's existing 3-person ninja squads to reduce the casualty rate of ninja on missions and battlefields. However, limited by funding and the difficulty of cultivating medical ninjutsu, Tsunade had tried for many years without success, eventually giving up. And now, Tsunade simply couldn't refuse the conditions offered by Uchiha General. Who could refuse an opportunity to achieve their life's ideal? What about me? What about me? At this moment, Jiraiya, who was beside them, quickly spoke up. Over 20 billion ryo. Even if Tsunade only received 1 or 200 million ryo as salary each year, that was still a lot. He was also very tempted by so much money. How long would it take to earn so much by writing? His usual expenses were also very high. Senior Jiraiya, you can continue to gather various intelligence for the village from outside, and when the village needs you, you must return to contribute. The village can also give you an annual fund, and your salary will be on par with Senior Tsunade. Uchiha General said with a smile, deciding to let him avoid anything related to the Akatsuki organization and continue being an intelligence-gathering Jiraiya. For a ninja like Jiraiya, if one didn't want to kill him, recruiting him was the best option. The annual funding given to him would be considered money for intelligence and the appearance fee for a peak cage level combatant at critical moments. Actually, having Jiraiya teach Naruto and train him in Sage Mode and mastering the Nine-Tailed's power in advance was also a good option. But Uchiha General was afraid he would teach Naruto to be an idiot. There were many ways to learn Sage Mode. The task of educating Naruto should still be entrusted to Kakashi. At least he was someone who had truly seen darkness yet could maintain his kindness, coupled with the influence of Uchiha Fugaku's family, which would prevent Naruto from being as naive and foolish as in the original timeline. On the ground, Orochimaru, who was tied up and had just woken from the genjutsu, was also very tempted by this. As a scientist, what was the biggest problem? Lack of funding. Every year, Orochimaru had to spend a lot of time raising money, even having to feign cordiality with those foolish, pig-headed noble daimyo. If Uchiha General was willing to allocate him so much money each year, he could also love Konoha and support the Uchiha in becoming Hokage. Unfortunately, Uchiha General completely ignored him. He had changed his mind. The Koto Amatsukami he had originally intended for Uchiha Fugaku, he now planned to use on Orochimaru. Fugaku and he had a very pleasant cooperation, so there was no need to use Koto Amatsukami to disrupt their current cooperative relationship, but Orochimaru certainly needed a thought correction. From now on, he would be punished to be a workhorse for life. He would research things that were truly useful and could benefit the Central Continent team in the ninja world. I'm taking Orochimaru with me. I won't kill him, I'll keep him confined afterward. Next, you two go help deal with those hidden Cloud Village captives. Afterward, I'll entrust the village's affairs to your efforts. After settling things with Tsunade and Jiraiya, Uchiha General introduced them to Uchiha Fugaku. Then, Uchiha Fugaku introduced the two former Hokage line individuals to the other ninja clans, signaling that the Uchiha would sincerely cooperate with everyone to improve Konoha and would no longer carry out large-scale purges in the future. After handling these matters, Uchiha General went to deal with Orochimaru. He activated his second stage gene lock and temporarily learned the eye transplantation surgical procedure. This was not difficult. The gene lock inherently had the effect of increasing talent and comprehension, and combined with the Bodhi heart Uchiha General had consumed, Uchiha Gen's learning ability had now reached an extremely high level. After mastering eye transplantation, a core Uchiha skill, Uchiha General temporarily removed his own Mangekyo Sharingan and replaced it with Uchiha Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan, which could permanently alter will, and activated Koto Amatsukami on Orochimaru. Forever loyal to Uchiha Gen, viewing him as the supreme master who needs to be protected with everything one has. This thought was implanted into Orochimaru's mind. Even if he knew he was under genjutsu, he wouldn't feel there was anything wrong with serving Uchiha General like a dog. This was the terrifying aspect of Koto Amatsukami. After completing all of this and initially controlling Orochimaru, Uchiha General asked for the locations of all of Orochimaru's backup soul fragments and recovered them. From this point, unless Orochimaru truly died, he would be unable to escape the control of Koto Amatsukami. Afterward, Uchiha General began assigning research tasks to his newly acquired workhorse. In the Naruto world, Uchiha General desired many things. However, the most urgent thing at the current stage was the improvement of Edo Tensei. The initial version of Edo Tensei recorded in Konoha was quite weak. It was merely a technique developed by Senju Tobarama to be used in conjunction with exploding tags. Orochimaru's current second version of Edo Tensei could be used in actual combat. However, it was still far from the perfected version of Edo Tensei seen during the Fourth Ninja World War. Therefore, the next task Uchiha General assigned Orochimaru was to use Hashirama cells as sacrifices. He was to create a version of Edo Tensei with the strongest control, capable of perfectly replicating the deceased's strength from their lifetime. If Orochimaru could complete the ultimate version of Edo Tensei as soon as possible, Uchiha General could then allow Jongjia to exist as an Edo Tensei body close to his peak, playing a crucial role in the Central Continent team. Otherwise, he would only be able to lie dormant all day, only becoming truly useful after he was revived. Coincidentally, Orochimaru had also been very fond of researching Edo Tensei recently. So, after receiving Uchiha Gen's command, he happily took the unlimited funds and the Umbrella Corporation's human cloning technology provided by Uchiha Gen and went to work. Of course, compared to before, Orochimaru now had many more restrictions. He had to stay within Konoha village, near the Uchiha clan territory, constantly accompanied by 3 elite Uchiha Jonin as monitors. He was not allowed to contact outsiders and distribute soul fragments, nor was he allowed to kill innocent people. He was to use clones as research materials whenever possible, and any violation would result in a technique. The 3 Uchiha elite Jonin, working together, might not be able to defeat the other 2 of the Sannin, but against Orochimaru, who was weak to genjutsu and whose every secret was laid bare, they were a perfect counter. After arranging all of this, Uchiha General took advantage of the post-war negotiations between Konoha Village and Hidden Cloud Village to go cultivate Sage Mode. He didn't expect to achieve any significant results in a short period, he just wanted to first understand what Sage Mode was all about. He was cultivating the Wetbone Forest Sage Mode from the Sage of Slugs. Judging from Hashirama's performance in the original work, aside from Six Paths Sage Mode, Wetbone Forest Sage Mode provided the greatest stat boosts. The process of getting Tsunade's recommendation to cultivate with the Great Sage was not difficult. Although Tsunade really wanted to refuse Uchiha Gen's request, feeling that such a powerful force as Sage Mode should not be leaked to an inherently evil Uchiha brat, and that she should follow her great-granduncle's teachings to remain wary of the Uchiha, after Uchiha General produced a ton of gold as tuition. The inherently evil Uchiha brat had already transformed into Gen-kun, becoming someone even closer than her own younger brother. Naturally, there was no problem with helping her good younger brother cultivate Sage Mode. After getting the summoning scroll from Tsunade and signing the summoning contract, Uchiha General was reverse summoned to Wetbone Forest not long after. Lord Gen, it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I am Katsuyu. A gentle and charming elder sister's voice sounded, and a human-sized blue and white slug appeared before Uchiha General. Although she was the great sage, possessing extremely powerful strength, this one was probably the most gentle and polite of all the summoning beasts. Uchiha General smiled and replied, "Greetings, great sage. I've come this time to cultivate Sage Mode. I'll be troubling you." Tsunade had already greeted the great sage, so she already knew Uchiha Gen's intentions. Without further ado, she immediately began teaching Sage Mode. The cultivation of Sage Mode involves sensing natural energy, drawing it into the body, and refining it into Sage Mode chakra in a 1:1:1 ratio with spiritual energy and physical energy. With Sage Mode chakra, a ninja's sensory abilities, strength, speed, and other attributes will experience an extremely significant increase. And to cultivate Sage Mode, in addition to having a vast amount of chakra, one also needs a calm mind, otherwise, the natural energy drawn into the body can easily go out of control. As a ninja of the Uchiha clan, in terms of chakra volume, Gen-kun, you are definitely qualified. However, maintaining a calm mind is not an easy task, and you may need to work harder in this regard going forward. Next, I will teach you the specific steps for cultivating Sage Mode. Under the Great Sage's meticulous guidance, Uchiha General gradually understood the process of cultivating Sage Mode. The general theory was similar to what he had read in the manga, but the specific details of how to refine Sage Mode chakra and how to use this power were what Uchiha General needed to learn. Soon, after the theoretical lessons concluded, the human-sized great slug transformed into many smaller slugs that lay on various parts of Uchiha Gen's body, and he then clearly felt the rich natural energy in the air. Natural energy was colorful, bizarre, extremely violent, and difficult to control. Sensing natural energy was difficult, and drawing it into the body to refine chakra while achieving perfect control was even more difficult. However, to the great sage's surprise, Uchiha General quickly entered a meditative state, completely unlike a restless Uchiha. As descendants of the sage, the Uchiha certainly possessed talent for cultivating Sage Mode, and it was strong. However, the spirit of this clan was inherently filled with a kind of restlessness and obsession, making it difficult for them to calm down. Because of this, almost no one throughout history had mastered Sage Mode. This was also why, when explaining the theory, she first mentioned that maintaining a calm mind was difficult, so that Uchiha General wouldn't think she wasn't teaching him seriously. However, the current situation was completely different from what she had initially expected. Uchiha Gen, this Uchiha, had none of the usual Uchiha restlessness. He was even more peaceful than many middle-aged and elderly people who had experienced much in life and had open minds. And this was the benefit of Uchiha General having severed his inner demons and obsessions, achieving clarity of mind and seeing his true nature. He had already broken free from the impatience ingrained in the Uchiha. At this moment, Uchiha General quietly sensed the natural energy. After approximately 3 days, he was already able to sense and draw natural energy independently, without the aid of the slugs. Subsequently, he activated his second stage gene lock and began his first Sage Mode chakra refinement. In the second stage gene lock state, Uchiha Gen's control over his body reached an extremely terrifying level. The violent natural energy entering his body's meridians was controlled without the slightest disorder, achieving a perfect fusion with his spiritual energy and physical energy. In an instant, a highly potent Sage Mode chakra was formed. As Uchiha Gen's mind remained calm, the accumulated Sage Mode chakra grew more and more, and he quickly entered Sage Mode. With sufficient Sage Mode chakra accumulated, Uchiha General successfully entered Sage Mode, and the Sage markings appeared around his eyes and on his brow. Instantly, he felt his body brimming with vitality. His strength, speed, defense, and recovery all significantly increased. In addition, his ninjutsu, genjutsu, and sensory abilities also saw a massive boost in this state. I feel power continuously surging. Uchiha General sensed the changes in himself, a smile involuntarily appearing on his face. With the enhancement of Sage Mode, Uchiha Gen, even without transforming into a Great Ape Saiyan, was undoubtedly a cage-level combatant. If he went all out, Uchiha General felt that he could now contend with Senju Hashirama in his peak state. Of course, he certainly couldn't beat him yet. But that wasn't important. Uchiha General still had significant room for growth. Congratulations, Gen-kun, you have initially mastered Sage Mode. Now, you only need to continuously train to increase the speed of refining Sage Mode chakra, so you can enter Sage Mode faster and apply it in actual combat. Lying on Uchiha Gen, ready to help him disperse any rampaging natural energy, Zetsu hadn't expected Uchiha Gen to successfully cultivate Sage Mode in one go. However, it wasn't particularly surprising. As a descendant of the Senju, it wasn't difficult for Uchiha to initially master Sage Mode as long as his mind was stable. A calm mind, simple as it sounds, is the most difficult step in mastering Sage Mode. However, to cultivate Sage Mode to the point where it can be used in actual combat will require a considerable amount of time, and to activate it instantly will require even more accumulated time. Thank you, Sage. Uchiha General thanked him with a smile. He then declined the sage's kind offer to teach him other Sage Mode ninjutsu and directly left. His main purpose in cultivating Sage Mode was to further enhance his stats. As for combat, taijutsu was sufficient, and there was no need to waste time learning other Sage Mode ninjutsu. As for thanking the sage and sending her gifts, Lady Tsunade would handle those matters. His 1 ton of gold tuition wasn't paid for nothing. Konoha Village, first Hokage Senju Hashirama's former residence. With a puff of smoke, Uchiha General dispelled the reverse summoning jutsu and returned here. At this moment, Tsunade was drinking. Various delicacies were laid out on the table, and Tsunade, accompanied by her apprentice Shizune, had a flushed face from drinking. Her ample chest rested uninhibitedly on the low table, a deep cleavage revealed before Uchiha General. Gen-kun, you finished cultivating so quickly. How was your training? Seeing Uchiha Gen, Tsunade smiled and waved, greeting him. Only 4 days had passed since Uchiha General went to the Shikatsu forest to train in Sage Mode. Tsunade didn't think Uchiha General had already learned it, he probably just understood what Sage Mode was. To truly master it would likely require years of study. I've already learned it, now I just need to practice for a while, and I can apply it in actual combat. Uchiha General glanced at the beautiful scenery in the room. Without shyness, he sat down generously opposite Tsunade, poured her a cup of sake, and said with a smile, however, I found that quickly refining Sage Mode chakra to enter Sage Mode isn't an easy task. Tsunade-ne-san, how about you teach me the strength of 100 seal? I can usually store Sage Mode chakra in the strength of 100 seal, and then I can quickly enter Sage Mode during combat. Actually, learning the strength of 100 seal wasn't strictly necessary for Uchiha General under normal circumstances. He could use the method Naruto would use in the future, creating several shadow clones at any time to absorb natural energy and refine Sage Mode chakra, allowing him to quickly enter Sage Mode during combat. But his concern was being thrown into an environment without natural energy by the main god when performing missions in the main god space later. Or, more simply, if he left the Naruto world, and the natural energy in other worlds couldn't be used to activate Sage Mode. At that time, he would need pre-stored Sage Mode chakra to activate Sage Mode, and the strength of 100 seal was prepared to deal with these two situations. Upon hearing this, Tsunade was somewhat surprised. She hadn't learned Sage Mode in all these years, and her classmate Jiraiya had struggled his entire life, only achieving a half-baked version. She hadn't expected Uchiha Gen to learn it in such a short time. After her surprise, Tsunade was quickly drawn to the matter of the strength of 100 seal. Although Tsunade was very pleased that Uchiha General called her sister, the strength of 100 seal was her ultimate secret technique, and she certainly wouldn't casually teach it to this inherently evil Uchiha brat. Calling her sister wouldn't work either. So, she decisively refused. This strength of 100 seal is a secret technique that I, your sister, spent a long time researching to master. It's not that easy to teach to others. However, upon seeing the 1 ton of gold Uchiha General threw in front of her, Tsunade's expression instantly changed, and she said with a smile, however, on second thought, Gen-kun, you are closer to me than my own younger brother. If you want to learn the strength of 100 seal, I will naturally do my best to teach you. As she spoke, she ignored Shizun's strange look from the side. She quickly collected the gold. Then, she took out a ninjutsu scroll and immediately began writing down the strength of 100 seal's jutsu formula and cultivation steps. She even used her own completed strength of 100 seal as a teaching aid, explaining the entire jutsu's cultivation method in detail to Uchiha General. With Uchiha Gen's Mangekyo Sharingan recording it, he quickly memorized the entire strength of 100 seal's jutsu formula. After this, he only needed to spend time cultivating it to master it. Thank you, Tsunade Ne-san. Having obtained what he wanted, Uchiha General thanked her with a smile and then left. After Uchiha General had gone far away, Shizun, while tidying up the messy room, sighed, Lady Tsunade, you are truly generous to Gen-kun. She wanted to learn Sage Mode and the strength of 100 seal, and Tsunade would certainly be willing to teach her, as she was a direct disciple. But unfortunately, she didn't have the aptitude. And Uchiha Gen, after all, was an outsider. Although Uchiha General gave a full 2 tons of gold to learn Sage Mode and the strength of 100 seal from Tsunade, it seemed like a great cost. But in reality, even if an ordinary person offered more money as tuition, Tsunade wouldn't teach them. Power is the most fundamental thing in this world. With power, any amount of money can be easily obtained. Selling the method to acquire power for a bit of money is unwise. Therefore, Shizun said Tsunade was generous. Tsunade smiled and didn't respond. It wasn't that she was generous, but that she knew what was proper. The other party respected her and was willing to pay her a huge tuition fee to learn what he wanted. But if the other party didn't respect her, like how they treated Sarutobi and the remaining few senju, killing them all and taking what he needed, what could she do? Sometimes, if there's a way out, it's best to take it, otherwise, it will make everyone awkward. During the time Uchiha General was cultivating Sage Mode, the entire ninja world became incredibly lively. First, there was Konoha's internal strife, with the Uchiha clan launching a revolution, eliminating all the corrupt and dark Konoha higher-ups. While achieving victory, this also significantly depleted Konoha's military strength. Then, the Hidden Cloud Village seized this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attack the weakened Konoha. However, they were easily defeated by 2 powerhouses of the Uchiha clan. Their ninja army suffered more than half its casualties, and even 4th Raikage and the village's 2 Jinchuriki were directly captured by Konoha. At this moment, Onoki, the 3rd Tsuchikage of Iwagakure in the Land of Earth, felt a sense of relief. Fortunately, he had been a little slow to act, otherwise he would have been the one to suffer a beating from the Uchiha. He stared at the intelligence gathered by his subordinate ninja, looking at the giant purple samurai described in the report as tall as a mountain. At this instant, Onoki recalled the fear of being dominated by Uchiha Madara decades ago. He immediately let out a bitter laugh and abandoned the idea of attacking Konoha. Instead, he began sending envoys to contact Konoha to further solidify their non-aggression pact. Now, Onoki could only pray that this generation's Uchiha clan head was a peace-loving person, otherwise Iwagakure would be in trouble. On the other side, Rasa, the 4th Kazekage of Sunagakure in the Land of Wind, was also sweating profusely at this moment. Because he had just received news of Konoha's internal strife and was about to gather his subordinates to ambush Konoha. If not for their internal squabbling and delays, they would probably have suffered the same fate as the Hidden Cloud Village. Immediately, Rasa decided to send envoys to express goodwill to the Uchiha clan, who were now in charge of Konoha. As for the other major power in the ninja world, Kurigakure in the Land of Water, there was no reaction. They had been troubled enough by Obito in recent years and were still engaged in internal conflict, implementing the Bloody Mist policy and purging their own bloodline limit ninja clans. They had no time to care about what was happening outside. Thus, they remained silent from beginning to end. Inside the Uchiha clan territory, Fugaku, beaming with joy, recounted the recent events to Uchiha General. They had captured all the surrendered ninja from the Hidden Cloud Village, sealed their chakra, brought them back to Konoha for imprisonment, and then notified the Hidden Cloud Village to prepare to pay a ransom. Currently, the Hidden Cloud Village's envoys for negotiating compensation, as well as the envoys from Sunagakur and Iwagakure intending to forge an alliance, had all arrived in Konoha. However, because Uchiha Gen, the great hero and second most important figure of the Uchiha, was out cultivating, the negotiations had not yet begun. Gen-kun, is there any Hidden Cloud secret jutsu you want? I'll help you acquire them during the upcoming negotiations. Uchiha Fugaku said with a smile. The promises Uchiha General had made to him were now being fulfilled step by step. He was leading the Uchiha clan and all of Konoha to a new height they had never even imagined before. Having defeated the Hidden Cloud Village and avenged second Hokage Senju Tobirama, Konoha could now be called the strongest in the ninja world. Who would dare say he wasn't qualified to be the fifth Hokage? Lightning Release Ninjutsu, along with the corresponding secret cultivation medicines and offensive ninjutsu. Lava Release, Explosion Release, Storm Release, Heavenly Transfer Jutsu, and those ninja tools left by the Six-Path Sage from the Ninshu era. There's nothing else worth noting. Uchiha General pondered for a moment, then replied. The Hidden Cloud's secret lightning release armor ninjutsu is not high level, only B rank in difficulty, but it's the type that's easy to learn but hard to master. To reach the level of 4th Raikage and 3rd Raikage, besides talent and arduous training, various matching secret cultivation medicines are also indispensable. He wanted this for Jung-za. Of course, Uchiha General could also practice it himself if he had time. Besides that, various other bloodline limits would greatly help enrich Uchiha Gen's offensive methods, allow him to master more chakra nature transformations, and in the future, achieve bloodline eruption and even bloodline mesh. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku nodded and said, understood. I will have the Hidden Cloud Village send all these secret jutsu. Having agreed, he continued to discuss with Uchiha Gen, how should we deal with 4th Raikage A, Jinchuriki Killer B and Niyugido, and the captured Hidden Cloud Ninja? If we release them directly, we worry about them causing trouble, which would be endlessly annoying. If we kill them all, we worry about igniting a desperate will among the remaining Hidden Cloud Ninja. The Eternal Eye was very strong. Fugaku was confident he could defeat the entire Hidden Cloud Village alone, but he wasn't confident he could kill all the Hidden Cloud Ninja, nor was he confident that the current Konoha could seize the various power vacuums left after the Hidden Cloud's destruction. At that time, if the red-eyed Hidden Cloud Ninja rushed into the land of fire to cause destruction, and the profits left by the Hidden Cloud were divided among other large and small ninja villages, that would truly be a huge loss. Therefore, Fugaku was very conflicted now and couldn't think of a method that would satisfy both sides. Set an exorbitant compensation, and then let the Hidden Cloud Village pay with exploding tags. Keep their 4th Raikage and Jinchuriki imprisoned until the debt is fully repaid. Also, for Sunagakur and Iwagakure, you can also place orders with them, purchasing exploding tags without limit at a price slightly higher than cost but lower than market price. One of these villages is so poor it's bleeding, and the other has so many low-level ninja that they can't get missions. I imagine they'll readily accept our orders. And for Kurigakure, you can also send people to proactively contact them and place exploding tag orders. All ninja villages rely on us for their livelihood and can't defeat us. We will become the de facto strongest ninja village in the ninja world, then quickly accumulate strength, expand our ninja numbers, and finally achieve the goal of truly controlling the entire ninja world. Uchiha General said without hesitation. As he spoke, he took out several spatial pouches from his person and opened them, then also took out and opened his sealing scroll. Zhang Lan, Chu Zan, and Zheng Za had each spent 1 C-rank side mission and 300 reward points. They exchanged for a 30 cubic meter spatial pouch for Uchiha Gen and filled it with gold. This alone amounted to 90 cubic meters of gold. Additionally, Uchiha General himself had also put 1,000 reward points, totaling 100 cubic meters of gold, into his sealing scroll. Of these 190 cubic meters of gold, after deducting what had already been spent, the remaining value was approximately 5,500,000,000,000 ryo. At the market price of 300 ryo per low-grade exploding tag, and a wholesale price of 260 ryo per tag, he could purchase 21.1 billion exploding tags. If converted to high-grade exploding tags, which are worth 10,000 Ryo each and equivalent to B rank fire release, he could buy 550 million tags. Let the ninja of these ninja villages, and the rogue ninja across the ninja world, all go and work on making exploding tags. If they exhaust all their stamina and chakra daily just by working like cogs, too tired to fight and kill each other, then Konoha will naturally be worry-free. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe for more videos.